never known before. Something of your charm clings to me. Something of your warmth has stayed in my heart and made me a part of you for just a little while. So think of me as something in your smile. Please think of me as something in your smile.
Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. When all the clouds are a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble to the ground, heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the sky.
Call to order the Monday, March 9th, 2015 Single Family Design Board. Flip that on. Help him out there.
First, just have to
Thank
turn
you.
this thing
Is there anyone in the audience wishing to address any item that is not on today's agenda may do so now? Recognize that no one stepped forward. The chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for approval of minutes of the February 23rd meeting, 2015. Do I have a motion for approval? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's go through that. So item number 1 was 3626 San Remo Drive. Item number 2, 415 Allen Road.
Chair, I have one question that doesn't need to be put in the minutes because I didn't mention it, but this is the project that the people are coming back to consent with some additional design changes. One thing I remembered later was that the front arch and the front door were off-center by what appears to be about 6 inches.
Yes.
It wasn't a lot, but it would be nice if the front door and that front arch did align. So if the consent reviewer can just remember that when they were reviewing it. That it was already been blessed and approved?
I don't know. I'm the consent reviewer.
Well, no, I don't think it's come back to consent, and we just basically commented to the architect when they come back to design, to look at a lot of issues, and that one issue I didn't make reference
Okay,
to.
That's the one with the 2 arches.
Remember.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We'll note it.
Okay, thank you. Item number 3, 2405 State Street. Item number 4, 2233 Foothill Lane. Item number 5, 350 Mountain Drive.
What am I looking at? That's the agenda.
Item number 6, 435 East Valerio Street. Item number 7, 640 Aurora Avenue. I think that completes the items. Any other comments? I am going to, as I have as I did at the meeting, I will abstain from item number 1 and item number, where is it? State Street. 3, I think it is State Street. Yes, item 3. Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments, corrections, considerations? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Before we go to the consent calendar items, may we have a roll call, please?
Chair Sweeney,
Here.
Vice Chair Miller,
Here.
Board Member Bernstein, Board Member James, Board Member Motisha, Board Member Pierce, Board Member Woolery, and Board Member Zink.
Thank you. Let us go for consent calendar for March 2nd. I have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Ng?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Consent calendar minutes for Monday, March 2nd are as follows. Item A, 2011 Edgewater Way. This project received final approval as submitted. Item B, 31 El Cielito Road. This project received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. Items A and B were reviewed by board members James and Miller.
Okay. Are there any additions, corrections, or questions? Hearing none, Chair will call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Let's go to the consent calendar for this morning, March 9th.
Consent calendar for March 9th. Item A, 20 Camino Verde. This project received approval of the review after final with the comment as noted. Item B, 100 East Constance Avenue. This project received final approval with the condition. Item C, 398 West Mountain Drive. This project received final approval as submitted. And item D, 614 Sierra Street. This project received project design approval with the NPO findings. Items A through D were reviewed by board members James and Miller.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll move.
Do I have a second? Okay. Lisa? Okay. Any further discussion, comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
need to
Ms.
abstain
Bernstein.
from D.
Sierra Street, 614 Sierra.
And I will abstain from item C.
Okay, because you're a representative, Ms.
Yes.
Bernstein, why are you?
I was involved in the sale of that property.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll abstain from item 1.
Okay. Item 1, Camino Verde. Okay. Everybody have that clear? Okay. Any further comments, corrections, additions? None? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? You're abstaining. You just need to say abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, before we go to any further comments, we want to welcome aboard our newest member, Mr. Motisha, Joe Motisha. Welcome aboard. Thank you. Well, a colleague that I've known for just a little while.
I can imagine.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
sir.
also welcome Mr. Motishan. Thank you for volunteering. We also want to thank Mr. Zink for stepping in. He'll be leaving our board today as a result of our new appointment. So thank you for staying around and helping us out during this period.
Good. Thank you. Thanks to both. And Joe, we gave you an easy agenda today. We don't have a dinner break.
Ease you in.
Let's see. Other announcements?
Yeah, real quickly, the project at 2405 State Street, which we reviewed at the last full board meeting, has been appealed by the neighbor. We do not have a set hearing date yet, but we are looking at possibly April 21st.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Miller, you might note that because that's one I had to abstain because it's too close to my house. So I probably should not be the one that
Okay.
shows up at the appeal. All right. Okay. Any other announcements? Anyone needing to step down on any item today?
I will be stepping down on item 2 and then evaporating afterwards.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Zink is going to stay with us through item 1. I will be stepping down on item 1. Any others? Item 1. Okay, Ms. Pierce will be stepping down on item 1. Okay. Anything else? Subcommittee reports, I don't believe we have one at this point, although I will try to send you all an email and see if we can schedule a meeting here in the next 2-3 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe we can dig in a little bit further in what we're supposed to be doing. Okay. Barring that, then let's go to item number 1. Mr. Muller, you can take the center stage.
Okay.
All right, for the record, I'm Henry Lane, Design Studio. It's good to see you here, Joe.
Kate Svensson, designer for the project.
We're here because...
Do we need to read the last minutes?
Oh, yes, thank you. Before you go, Henry, we got to read last minutes.
Okay. So this was last reviewed February 9th, 2015, and this was given a final approval with the following conditions. The board supports the changes to the windows, but they are to have divided light mullions on the window exterior. The board approves the removal of the painted faux wainscoting. The roof shall be 2-piece mission tile. The project is consistent in its appearance, compatible with the neighborhood, and the quality of architecture is acceptable. It follows the good neighbor guidelines, and change the plans to reflect the roof with the 2-piece mission tile instead of the S tile. Action, James Woolery, 500, motion carried.
Sorry, could you repeat how the vote was last time?
500.
And what was the other one? Did somebody abstain? Or?
Oh, yeah. Well, Sweeney stepped down. Pierce was absent.
And Brian, can you tell us which one of the houses again this is in case the public is watching?
Yeah, it's lot 2.
Lot 2, and which one is that? Is it closest to the street?
Let's see. Lot 2 is the third one back from the street. So there are 4 lots, so it's the third lot from San Remo Drive.
But the remodeled one is
second.
The second.
And so this is behind it,
Correct.
and then there's another one behind it.
Exactly.
Sure.
Would you like to
All right.
Yeah.
pick up where you left off?
The reason we're here is that we're requesting an increase in the top plate from a range of 6 inches to 10 inches.
Okay.
And the main reason for that is we're having some difficulty with the mechanical systems. And our mechanical engineers are telling us that it would be good to have that range. And so this is the 8-foot plate, and this would be the 8-foot 10 plate.
Okay.
So, in a nutshell, that's all we're requesting. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's look at the. Well, can you give me the minutes or what?
Is that them again?
Do you have an extra one of those renderings?
You can have that.
Sure.
I kind of want to go through what we were asking for. See. Let's just kind of go through this checklist. Okay, 2-piece mission tile.
We'll do all those changes, yeah.
Okay, well, then I guess that's our issue to look at, is
Same
height.
one that's up there.
So this is a really good illustration of the height differences. Right. So with that, this is any output or input from anyone wants to speak, is that when we get someone to come up to speak? Any from this project? Seeing that no one is out in the public to speak, I will close the open session. Is there anything from the city that we need to address? No? Okay, then I'll bring it to the board. Do we have any questions?
Yes. Thank you, Brian. It says here on the report that you will be increasing the total height by 6 inches. And did I hear you correctly say 6 to 10 inches?
We're asking for a range. We're in the process of designing the system. If we can fit everything that we want to fit within the 6 inches, so much the better. And that's our intent. The only thing is that we don't want to come back here for another 2 inches and then another inch. So the range, I think, would help us a little bit. I think the instructions for our mechanical engineers is to keep it as low as possible.
Okay. I guess that needs amending then, because it just says 6 inches, and now it's a range from 6 to 10 inches.
Okay. Is there perhaps a mechanical sheet on this plan?
There is no mechanical sheet.
You have sections?
No, I have a section just showing you. Actually, this is drawn at 6 inches, which is what the submittal was about, which was on your plans. But basically, this plan shows you where we have to put flat ceilings. So
the issue's down on the first floor?
Only second floor.
Only the second floor, okay.
Yeah, so we only asked for the second floor adjustment. So all of this area that's marked in red is basically what we have to have flat ceilings and soffit all these rooms to get the ductwork to the east and north sides to allow the proper ventilation.
And the other thing that I may add, I think that the purpose is to keep an even flow through the second floor, because that would reduce the cycling period of the mechanical. And that was one of the issues, if you remember, with some of the neighbors, that they were concerned that the mechanical systems were just going to keep running and running. This will really prevent that, essentially.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yeah. Yes.
Regarding this range that you're asking for, so this 23-foot 5/16, is that the maximum, or is it can even go taller than that?
No, that would be the maximum.
That's including how much adding to the height?
With the additional maximum height would still be lower than the historic building. Okay, so it will be well under 25 feet.
Under 25 feet,
It will
which
be
is
under 23 feet.
It's actually, I can tell you.
22 foot.
At worst,
22.8.
At best, it would be 22 feet 4 inches. If it's 10 inches, it would be 22 feet 8 inches.
And how come it says 23/5/16 on this?
On what?
Right here?
Sheet A3.41. We're looking at a north elevation.
This might be a typo, because the approved house is 2110, so we're only asking to go up from that. This might be a typo.
Kind of explain under the...
Right by your hand.
Right here. So
basically, from the approved submittal, we're only asking, 6 to 10 inches from that, and the previous submittal is at 2110.
Okay. And the 25-foot is the maximum height to go?
Right. Well, actually, I think the maximum is 30, and it's desirable 25.
I don't think so. No. But anyway, David can answer that.
Maximum building height in the E3 zone.
Oh, I mean, you can go up to 30, but it's recommended to stay below 25.
Right.
Could you please explain, any more questions?
You can go.
Well, I have a question. I quite don't understand what the issue is. Can you kind of clarify what exactly is the problem with the upstairs, just so we have a better understanding of what you're saying?
I mean, originally the idea would be great to have all these rooms vaulted and have 8-foot plate, which would be great.
Yes.
We can't achieve this because we have to put registers on all the exterior walls. So basically east and north, to make
The registers are going up the wall from the first floor to...
No, they're going through this, basically, in this closet there is a...
There's a FAU closet.
Yeah.
Okay, so the...
Right, so it goes through the bathrooms, goes through the
Okay.
hallways, and then we have to soffit every room and drop the ceilings all around the room.
So you're dropping the volume ceilings down.
We're actually flat ceilings. It's
Yeah,
flat ceilings.
in other words, to be able to run the ducts.
Right, because we can't have vaulted ceilings any longer. We don't have enough space for the ducts. So
Because
ceilings drop to
it's a
flat
hip
ceilings.
roof, which means that, whereas if it was a gable, you'd have more room to play with.
Right.
I see.
And also, to have soffits, even here, if we had soffits all around the room, there's kind of makes no sense to vault this little space of 10 feet wide, so we end up putting flat ceilings in every small room, and probably in the master as well, to
Of
allow
course,
for ductwork.
having the hip versus the gable, the hip significantly reduces the
Right.
mass on the exterior. So
That was one of the things we've done,
right,
yeah.
if you remember.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so there's kind of a trade-off.
Right.
It seems to me. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right. Go into comments. Who has any comments?
So see, this is probably where the discrepancy is. It doesn't touch the roof. It's actually going through the section.
Well, I'll just jump in with a question. You're under 25 feet, so this house isn't going to have a large, strong profile, so it's not an issue. Individually, as a designer, I would rather see you play with a couple plate height differences on the second floor because that's how I add interest, and you're keeping it all at one consistent plate height roaming around there, and that's your prerogative as a designer, so I won't go into that. So I don't see it as being a significant issue. Going with scissor trusses and making the ductwork work, it's just where you're going to be on the project. I would have rather seen it as an opportunity to increase the architecture and maybe take something up to 9 and keep something at 8 so that you could have a little bit of play around there, but then that might have increased the development costs for the client. He didn't want to go with that, so just raise everything up by 6 to 8 inches or 10 inches to solve your mechanical problem is the answer. Because it is less than 25 feet, it's not going to have a significant impact, so I think it's going to be fine. As a designer, take the opportunity that if you're going to increase the ceiling height,
raise the window.
You can put 6 more inches in the window.
I agree.
The guy's spending more money on the glass, but you're adding. But
in other words, the proportion should remain the same. Absolutely agree. That was my fault. I let that go. But
so
yes,
overall, I don't see it as a significant issue because it is minor, and I see it as an opportunity to enhance the architecture along the way.
Okay, very good. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So just to be the devil's advocate for a moment, remember this is one of 4 houses.
Right.
So what's going to happen if we approve this? Are they all going to be like this? And
Well,
then
no.
we don't have any guarantee.
No,
let her talk.
Sorry.
And then
Yeah,
that's
so
okay.
I'm just expressing my concern that I'm pretty sure that if we approve one, then we're going to get 3 more, and then all of a sudden the historical house is not that much higher or anything, because they're all going to be higher.
Well, let me clarify if I may.
Sure, please.
These houses are not identical to one another. They're all very different. The roof structures and the roof configurations are different. In this house, initially I decided to lower the plate to 8 feet, simply for aesthetic reasons. And as it happens in every single building, when you start putting the mechanical systems in place, you discover that you under-designed the plates. That happens every single day. Now, I don't believe that we're going to have that issue at all in the other houses because they're very different in this house. And so consequently, I can tell you that we are going to do our best to keep it to 6 inches, but we don't want to keep coming back to you. And so if we can get a range approved of that. But no, the answer is just because it happens in this house, it doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to happen in all houses.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that said, Would someone like to make a motion?
Well, how's the board feeling about the range? Because, not taking it up one notch, which is 6 inches, and then just saying make it work and make your ductwork work, versus this, 6 to 8 to 10 inches. I mean, if we're going from 8 to 8.6, and then we hold our line that the other second stories that are in the other units that along this development, they shouldn't go over 8.6 either, and they need to figure it out before they get any further in their design development. So we basically will cap it, because Bernie does have a concern what happens when the next project comes and they ask for an additional 10 inches in the next project and the next project for this development.
Well, I guess my only comment is that's kind of a subjective concern, that it's like creating something that really isn't really an issue. So I think we primarily, we're going to review all the houses and just keep in mind what we're approving here, and when the next house comes, just remember what, because we're the same group that's going to be approving the later houses, so I think we're pretty aware of what's going on. So, and you bring up the point that it's under 25 feet, so I think.
Well, if it stays that way.
Yeah, even if we add 1 foot, it will still be below 23 feet.
I mean, we can only go so far on this board, so.
So I'll make a motion to allow the developer, the designer, to have some flexibility of, let's just say, 4 to 10 inches in increasing the interior height as needed for mechanical. And this project has received preliminary approval. Has it received final?
Yeah.
That I would just say the drawings need to clearly indicate what the height is when being submitted to the building department, and it'll be reviewed by staff.
You mean post this meeting?
Yeah, because right now we're finding some inconsistencies, what you were saying versus what we're looking at.
Right, clarifying, okay.
So what we're telling the staff is that we're giving you a range between 4 to 10 inches based upon the drawings that were given preliminary and final approval.
Yep.
And staff will verify those dimensions.
Okay.
That'll be a motion.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion?
So under discussion, so can we will the maker of the motion consider adding what was originally discussed, that the maximum, it won't be any taller than 23,516?
I will bring that to the staff is here right now who will review it, and so I'm just pointing out that the drawings we see in front of us today say 23 feet, and that's the absolute max. And even though she was actually saying it's going to be less than that number.
But we want that
but that's
in
more
there.
than 10 inches. So is the max then 23 feet, or is the max 10 inches from the final?
10 inches is what you asked for, right?
Right.
So that means this number is wrong.
Okay, so, okay.
So that should answer your question.
So is that going to go into the motion then?
The motion was an increase in height between 4 and 10 inches based upon the height that was noted in the final drawings when this project was given final approval.
But not to exceed.
They can't go more than 10 inches of what is written there right now.
But you said
So
what's written is wrong.
Not to exceed 2210.
So what is supposed to be written?
Well,
what's correct?
2210.
2210.
No, well, the final approved set is 2110, so 10 inches from that is 22.8, right?
22.8, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
I'm not sure about like 3/16 or something after that, but there's.
So on this, your maximum height is shown as.
That's not.
It doesn't show it anywhere.
On the elevation.
Well, okay, so we need to.
It's 2110. We just.
So clearly, that the top of the existing overall height was what, 2110?
Yeah.
And
What does this one say, top of roof?
2410, but it's not.
No, it says 2110, and we just looked up the previous middle.
So the current height is 2110, and the board is saying that it cannot exceed 10 inches above that number, which is 22 feet 8 inches, and that's to go in the meeting.
And I'm all right with having those specific dimensions in the motion.
Seconder, approved.
Okay, got that, Bernie? Okay, great. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, the ayes carry. You're very welcome.
Brian, do you have your mic with you?
It's 60
Yes,
square
you have
feet.
it.
What's the dimensions of that? Do you like? Oh, so it's just pretty small. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Now we've got some paperwork sorted out. Let's go to item number 2, 3435 Marina Drive. Final approval is requested. Project must comply with the Planning Commission Resolution number 024-14. Project was last reviewed on February 9th, 2015. Welcome. If you could introduce yourself for the record, please.
My name is Paul Zink, and I'm the architect for this project.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Do I need to read that for him here? Oh, okay. All right. They say I need to read this. Either the chair or vice chair of each board will make the following announcement, indicate prior to having an item, or a sole practitioner will make a presentation before the board and commission. And since you sat in on part of today's meeting, we need to read this into the record. The State Fair Political Practices Act, Regulation 18702.4, subsection B, paragraph 5, states that an official may appear before a design or architectural review committee, of which he or she is a member, to be present, explain architectural engineering drawings which the official has prepared for a client. Paul Zink is a sole practitioner and is using this exception, understanding certain limits regarding advocating on behalf of his client. Mr. Zink, welcome.
Now, can I say something real quickly, just to clarify the record? I originally, when this project came to the board over a year ago, I was abstaining because I actually was currently working on the project. I have not worked on the project for over a year. I have no financial gain whatsoever or any kind of personal interest on this board or on this project at this time. So,
okay,
that's.
Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Miller, if you could read our actions from our last meeting, please.
Okay. The motion said, number 1, the 40 square foot addition for the mechanical is acceptable. Number 2, the landscape plan is sufficient for final approval at the next meeting. Number 3, the aloe marlothii is acceptable and does not obstruct view corridors. Number 4, the Rus integrifolia should be maintained at the 5-foot height requirement. Action motion by James, seconded by Bernstein. It was a unanimous vote, carried.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zink, if you could share with us how you touch those items.
Somewhere in this general vicinity was one of those plans that was mentioned, and it has been altered. To what degree, I'm not sure. I think he just removed it, because the other one was somewhere in this general vicinity, and it's not in that view corridor. I can't be more specific because I can't read Italian or Latin or whatever that is.
Okay.
One minor change to the plan since I finished. I added a couple things to the electrical plan that are not reflected on this sheet. Oops, sorry about that. On the electrical plan, I happen to have added 2 additional light fixtures. And these light fixtures happen to be of the type that have the motion detector. And what's written on the note underneath there is that they're to be centered between the beams. And the purpose for this location is when they take out the trash, they walk this direction on a path, and I wanted the lights to be on a motion sensor. Previously, I had just a type of light fixture that was on a toggle switch that would go on or whatever. So I wanted to have this, which actually, I did do it right. Oh, hallelujah. So those are the 2 light fixtures. I just ended up leaving this piece off the scan.
Okay.
So that was something that I added when I was finishing up the plans. Other than that, on the exterior elevation, I simplified one of the arches. I had some stonework that was going to be placed on it, and we got the structural back. I'll go to the elevation first. One time I had stonework that wrapped around this elliptical arch. And then there's framing that happens in here to support the deck. When that happened, interior dimension became too narrow, and the stone and the ceiling collided. So at that point, I took off the stone here, and now I just have that as a plastered arch with the precast concrete on the side. Other than that, these drawings are the same as what you've seen at the previous meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go to the board for questions, Mr. Ng, is there any communication from the public?
I do have 2 speaker slips.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Excuse me, do we we have no letters or other communication?
No letters.
Susan Streck, please, if she could step forward. And you could probably use that microphone. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Susan Strick. I live at 3475 Marina Drive, which is 2 houses down from this built house. And I've been following the process very closely as we go along here. I wanted to just say I'm in complete support still of the plan and the revisions that Paul and his team have made. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Joe? Session? John, excuse me. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is John Kachijan. I live with my wife at 3416 Marina Drive. We have followed this project from day one, and we can tell you all that the project before you has the support of us and many of our neighbors. We look forward to the day when the construction is over and there's a new family addition to the neighborhood and the community, and we do live right next door. We also want to thank you all for your effort, your patience, and your determination for this, what we think is a very nice project. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay. Any other public comment? Okay. Chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. Anyone have any specific questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I actually have a question more addressed to you.
Okay.
So it's because, and I can't find that sheet that you gave us about the FAR calculation, but
yes.
One of the findings that our board needs to make is to approve a house of this size on this lot, which it is a big lot, and we have to explain to the public that even though this is 103%, its apparent appearance and size, bulk, and scale, we have to make the findings that it does comply with our guidelines. So I wondered if you might like to address that.
Well, I believe we did that at the stage where we gave this project design approval. As you recall, that decision was appealed to the City Council, where the discussion of FAR was, I believe, part of that discussion with City Council as a part of the appeal. And the Council denied the appeal and upheld our decision to give the project design approval. So I believe that subject has already been covered. We're here for final approval based on a completed set of drawings.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Zing, just one. Could you just go quickly, very quickly, to the elevations, just to show me where those two fixtures are you're talking about?
They're probably not shown on the actual elevation, but I can point where they're going to need to be located.
Which sheet would they? Where am I?
That would be 4.1. So this is going to be the door to the garage, and this is the door to the to a bathroom. So centered between here, somewhere on this wall,
right
will be a light fixture that will be motion detected. And then along here, this is the front facing the street. I have a trellis. In between the trellis is where my trash can and yard storage would be. So it would be underneath here, pointing down.
So it's kind of like be right in there.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Let's go to comments. Comments from the board. This is here for final approval.
My comment is I think it's a great project. I can support it.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'll concur with that, and I appreciate the neighbors coming out in support of the project.
Okay, thank you. I'll just kind of summarize. This has been a long, long process. It had a very vigorous review and inquiry by a set of neighbors. It went through an appeal process. And we're here today to then give it final approval. As Ms. Bernstein pointed out, this is at 103% on a very large lot. But as I think we have agreed over the last several years, at least since I've been on this board, we try to treat each project in the uniqueness of its site and its relationship to the neighborhood. This is one of these projects where if the community had really sought a public open space, then they could have had the opportunity to step forward and buy the property and turn it back as a public park. That didn't occur, so this board was faced with having to deal with someone wanted to build something on this site, which they have every right to. And I think that the architect and the applicant worked with us diligently to get to a size, scale, and bulk that was probably acceptable, and I think that's what everyone's feeling today. So without further comment, the chair would entertain a motion. For final approval.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to give this project final approval with the following MPO findings. The board feels that the consistency and appearance of the proposed development is consistent with the scenic character of the city and surroundings. And I'm told I don't have to do that.
No, you just have to say final approval. If you want to make any other comments outside the yellow sheet, you're welcome to do that.
This is a nice yellow sheet, and we grant you final approval.
All right, that's the motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Did we already get a color board?
Yes, we got all of
garage
that.
doors
We got
and the
garage
doors
doors.
and everything.
We
the
got all of
fixtures.
that.
I mean, I have
I
copies
can't
of it.
remember,
I
but
have copies
okay.
here, but staff also has it as part of this meeting.
I wouldn't mind taking a quick look at that.
We looked at all of that thoroughly several times.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, there is a motion and a second on the floor. Hearing no further requests for comments or discussion, chair calls for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Manisha, are you abstaining? Are you voting? Okay. Mr. Manisha is abstaining just because this is his first day. Thank you. Otherwise, I think we have everyone else in favor. This is subject to a 10-day appeal period. Thank you, Mr. Bain.
Thank you very much.
We have a
Great afternoon.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that you for any? Oh, for any of them. I thought it was just after.
No, I'm just trying to figure something out.
Oh, okay.
I just figured it out. It's just like a
Okay,
small little
let's go
patio.
to item number 3, 415 Yankee Farm Road, please.
They're here.
This is here is for final approval as requested. The project was last reviewed on January 12th, 2015.
They're not here.
They're not here.
It's 410. We're running
Okay.
fast. Yeah.
425. Holy mackerel.
No, 410. It's supposed to be 410.
410. Yeah, applicants are due here 15 minutes before, so I would say let's take a bit of a recess for about 10 minutes and get back here and see if the applicants are in. Thank you.
Such a losing game. Why should I move when I can prove I get there just the same? Folks look at me and say, be somebody. How much more would it take? Ain't doing bad, doing nothing, just lying round all day. I get the blues when there's work to be done. I just wanna sit in the noonday sun. I'm lazy, ain't doing bad, doing nothing. Easy come, easy go, that's the way. If love must have its day, then as it came, as it goes. Easy come, easy go, that's the way. If love must have its day, then as it came. As it goes.
let it go. No remorse, no regret, we should part exactly as we're met, just easy come, easy go. We never dreamed of romantic dangers, but now that it ends, let's be friends and not two strangers. Easy come, easy go, here we are. So darling, au revoir, it's easy come, easy go. Love has fooled us, it has cooled us, once it ruled us, now we're free. We'll be happy in remembering that we found love easily. Easy come, easy go, here we are. So, darling, au revoir, it's easy come, easy go.
How soon the flame of love can die. How soon good night becomes goodbye. You're gone now, and life goes on now. And everything seems out of tune. But time can bring a change of heart, and love can make another start. Someday you may come back to me to stay, but who can say how soon? Someday you may come back to me but who can say how soon?
I'm as restless as a willow in a windstone. I'm as jumpy as a puppet on a string. I'd say that I had spring fever, but it isn't even spring. I am starry-eyed and vaguely discontented, like a nightingale without a song to sing. Oh, why should I have spring fever when I know it isn't spring? I keep wishing I were somewhere else, walking down a strange new street, hearing words that I have never heard from a man I've yet to meet. I'm as busy as a spider spinning daydreams. I'm as giddy as a baby on a swing. I've never seen a crocus or a rosebud or a robin on a wing, but I feel so gay in a melancholy way that it might as well be spring. It might as well be spring. Busy as a spider spinning daydreams. I'm as giddy as a baby on a swing. I've never seen a crocus or a rosebud or a robin on a wing, but I feel so gay in a melancholy way that it might as well be spring. It might as well be spring.
Take my hand, I'm a stranger in paradise, all lost in a wonderland, a stranger in paradise. If I stand starry-eyed, that's a danger in paradise for mortals who stand beside an angel like you. I saw your face and I ascended out of the commonplace into to the rest somewhere in space. I hang suspended until I know there's a chance that you care. Won't you answer this fervent prayer of a stranger in paradise? Don't send me in dark despair from all that I hunger for, but open your angel's arms to the stranger in paradise and tell him that he need be a stranger no more.
Long ago, my heart and mind got together and designed a wonderful boy for me. Oh, what a fantasy! Though the idol of my heart can't be ordered a la carte, I wonder if he will be always a fantasy. Will I ever find the boy on my mind, one who is my Maybe he's a dream, and yet he may be just around the corner, waiting for me. Will I recognize that light in his eyes that no other eyes reveal? Or will I pass him by and never even know that he was my ideal? Will I recognize that light in his eyes that no other eyes reveal? Although he may be late, I'll trust in fate, and so I wait for my ideal, for my ideal. Maybe I can't live to love you as long as I want to. Life isn't long enough, baby, but I can love you as long as I live. Maybe I can't give you diamonds and things like I want to, but I can promise you, baby, I'm gonna want to as long as I live. Now, I never cared, but now I'm scared I might not live long enough. That's why I wear my rubbers when it rains and eat an apple every day and see the doctor anyway. What if I can't live to love you as long as I want to? Long as I promise you, baby, I'm gonna love you as long as I live. Wear long underwear when the winter breezes blow. I've got to take good care of me.
Chair is going to reconvene Monday, March 9th, 2015, Single Family Design Board. We're at item number 3, 415 Yankee Farm Road. This is here for final approval. It's requested. The project was last reviewed on January 12th, 2015. If you could introduce yourself, please.
I'm Dave Mendrow, architect.
Yeah.
Sean Foster, draftsman.
You go.
Scott Benzel, landscape architect.
You can push that.
Mr. Yeah, I think they're all on. You just need to kind of push them a little closer. Mr. Miller, could you read our action?
Yes. Number one, the board finds that the proposed development is consistent with the scenic character of the city. It is compatible with the neighborhood, and its size, bulk, and scale are appropriate. The quality of architecture and materials is acceptable, and the proposed project does not include the removal of or a significant impact of any designated specimen tree. 2, provide a landscape plan. 3, provide the materials for the back wall structure. Number 4, reduce the amount of exterior soffit lights. Number 5, study the approach to the fencing undulating the chain link from the street. Number 6, study the alternate to the existing corner tree to provide skirting. Number 7, provide the materials for the pool equipment wall. And number 8, the board will like staff to ensure an appropriate construction parking plan. Action carried by Pierce, seconded by Woolery. The motion was passed unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. If you could share with us how you addressed any of those comments, please.
Well, I think from an architectural standpoint, it would be the lights. We reduced the number of lights. On the south, the face where we had the lights, we've reduced them by 30%, and greatly reduced them. The site wall behind the house is a plaster finish to match the house itself. That's this wall here. I think the rest of the questions had to do with your work, Scott.
One of the comments pertaining to the wood fencing were on our preliminary plan, we had a longer section of straight wood fencing. We shortened it so that each section is equally 16 feet. So we have 16 feet, then we step it back. The chain link fencing we have left straight. The goal is that the hedge material will swallow that, and we've chosen hedging that is very loose, and so it will help break up the straight line of the fencing. There is, in case you're interested, going back to that retaining wall on the north side of the house, an elevation here showing the height. We're sloping it with grade so that we really wanted to minimize the height. The tallest point is here at just short of 3.5 feet.
Okay. One of the other items was pool equipment material on the wall, running pool equipment. Oh, that's probably the problem.
There you go.
Stop the mechanic, you have to put the microphone on. Where is materials for the pool wall was one of the other issues. Pool equipment.
Some elevations, stucco to match the residence as well.
Okay, and a metal frame with horizontal wood on the gates. Okay, thank you. I'm going to hold that for staff. Anything else you want to present to us? No? Okay. Before we go to questions of the board, Mr. Ng, is there any public communication?
No, there is not.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak to this item? Seeing none and no communications from the public, Chair will close public comment and bring it back to the board for questions. If you have questions, please.
I have no questions, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Questions? No? Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Just looking at these pictures,
Put 'em over
just
here.
wondering are there any significant trees or anything that are going to need to be removed?
There are 2 large eucalyptus trees that are being removed.
Mm-hmm.
There was also public comment the last time we presented concerning a tree at the corner of the property near an intersection. It's a low pine, and there was a request to either remove or limit up, and we've chosen to remove it because it's so short and squatty. There really isn't an opportunity to limit up so that you could see beneath it.
So we'll leave it to our experts in landscaping
That's
and
that one right there.
Yes.
see what you're going to replace that with. Thank you.
Okay, can we hold on to that? Any other questions? I do, just to follow up. So that's the tree that's going to go away.
Correct.
This fence essentially is staying in place.
It gets pushed back, actually, right now.
But it's essentially a straight line like that.
Yes,
It's going to go
correct.
pushed back, okay.
It'll be placed right on the right-of-way line.
And the material color on the fence?
Black vinyl coat.
Black vinyl coat, okay. Thank you. Other questions?
But then that's where you're going to plant the hedge around it, and that can be, how tall can that be?
The hedge?
Mm-hmm.
How tall can it be, or how tall do we want it to
How
be?
tall do you want it to be?
That's a good question.
It can grow to 8 feet under the new city hedge ordinance.
Okay.
So it can remain at 8 feet, and if it needs to be any different than that, that's a zoning.
At a minimum, 5 feet for the pool fence enclosure.
I would say at a minimum 5 feet to bury the fence. We don't want them to see the fence. They do want to maximize their privacy, so we'll probably get close to that 8-foot mark.
Okay, thank you.
All right, other questions? Okay, this project is here for final approval, and so we need to assure ourselves that the set of drawings is in fact a final set of drawings, so if anybody needs to look at detailing, etc. So we'll go to, no further questions, we'll go to comments. Who has comments from the board?
Can we look at the pool, or did we already look at the pool?
I think we did look at the pool, but we can certainly go to that page. What do you want to see? There's the pool.
Just want to show it on the screen in case anybody's looking at it.
Again, right there, has a deck around it. All right, any other further comments? Cheryl, entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor for final approval?
Right.
That's a question. Is there a second to that motion?
Oh, sorry.
There's a second to the motion.
Mr. Chair, I do want to ask a question about the
Yes.
pool and the new Stage 2 drought things.
Yes.
Because we had talked about this once before, and somebody said something about some of the water having to be carried in. Is that
That
happening?
is not in play at this point. City Council has not instructed us otherwise. So we're still approving projects based on normal conditions.
Okay.
We have not triggered a stage 3, I think it is. We're not there yet.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? There's a motion and a second on the floor for final approval. Hearing no further comment, chair calls for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. So you have a final approved project.
Thank you.
Go to the building department. Thank you. All right. Get that back to you.
We're still now, we're way ahead again.
Let's go to
435.
435
But they're
East
here.
Valerio Street, please.
No, just put the earphones in. I'll email you with some other requirements we need to assess.
So we're going to be way ahead of schedule.
Oh, God. Let me sit like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oops. Gotta get some drawings out of the way.
Oh, this over here.
Yeah.
No.
You even look alike.
Oh, really?
This is 435 East Valerio Street. This is here for a second concept review. It's here for comments only. Project still requires an environmental assessment and a staff hearing officer review for requested zoning modifications. And before I go any further, item number 3, 415 Yankee Farm Road, was just given final approval, and that is subject to a 10-day appeal period. All right, back to item number 4. Comments only. Project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer review for requested zoning modification. Project was last reviewed on February 23rd, 2015. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Sure, I'm Dan Weber, architect.
Aurelia Taranto, homeowner.
Thank you. Welcome.
Wait,
Mr. Miller,
if
you could read comments from our last meeting, please.
Yes, number 1, the board appreciates the project's design and direction of the project, but prefers the use of the 3-window set configurations presented in the rendering as opposed to what is on the plans. Number 2, the board can support the built-up deck at the rear, but would like a study of an alternative design for terracing the deck. Number 3, provide details of the porch columns illustrating how they should look proportionately. Number 4, study the front elevation of the detached garage, giving special attention to the treatment of the additional 3-foot width on the ground floor. Number 5, provide clarification from the city staff regarding the curb cut and street tree preservation. Number 6, working together with the neighbor, study the impact of the garage alteration to the neighbor's garage and work together to provide a mutually agreeable solution. Number 7, provide a landscape plan concerning the westerly side of the property, lying along Valerio and Coda Streets. Action taken by Miller, seconded by Pierce. The vote was unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Before I have you get started, let's go to one of these items. Clarification from the staff regarding the curb cut and street tree preservation. Mr. Ing, did you have a chance to look at that? Can we go to the site plan very quickly? Here we go. I think there was a question about this tree and the opening for the driveway. Did you explore that?
Yeah. So transportation has looked at the project and overall, yes, they are in support of the changes as proposed.
Okay.
I also spoke with the city arborist and he
Yes.
supports the removal of the
Okay, the removal of the tree.
Yes.
Okay.
We actually initially had our curb cut scooted over to try to preserve that tree, and he said, this tree's got a disease, we want you to remove it. So, which is good for us because it lets us straighten out a little bit. And we'll plant
All right, so that addressed that. So if you could perhaps then address some of the other items that we talked about last week.
Yeah, sure. So you asked for some idea of the landscaping, so that's what is in front of us. We had indicated some fences in the previous elevation sketches, and so we've done a little bit more thinking about how the landscaping, particularly around the perimeter, will be addressed. And maybe it would be helpful if I flip back and forth between photographs. So on the side facing Valerio Street, there's this hedge which provides some privacy to that front yard. We want to maintain that hedge. Then there's a gap between this hedge that goes up Olive and the Valerio one, and all we want to do is just provide a fence right there. And the reason that we want to do that is because right now the fence is here, so this is open, and we're going to remove this fence and add a new fence there and there, a new gate there and there, which will allow kids and dogs and anything that you want to keep in the yard to be able to have a little bit more room in this yard that's already pretty challenged. So we're going to be maintaining that hedge. This existing hedge comes up to the fence, so we're going to keep that and just continue it along the interior property line to provide a little bit of privacy screening to the neighbor. The hedge along the front, sorry, it's actually technically the side along Olive. It comes from here, and there's a little high trellis arbor thing, which we're going to remove. And then this hedge that's along Olive, we need to take down to 42 inches so that we comply with our 10-foot visibility triangle that's required. This hedge is going to stay, but we're just going to revise it to fill that gap and open a gap right here so that we have some circulation that makes a little more sense around either side of the stoop. Mm-hmm. This area between the sidewalk and the stoop was infilled with concrete and brick. We're going to just do some nice little landscaping in front of there. And then privacy hedge that's held down to 42 inches between the neighboring properties. The existing front yard landscaping, we're going to leave it as is. It's nice. There's a gravel trail and just nice landscaping and a couple very immature trees back there. And then just a gravel trail up the side, and this is our one opportunity for some lawn that's easily accessible and usable from the house. So we actually want to try to extend that lawn around the proposed garage and do a reinforced grass product. We just did this on a house on the Riviera where we had a similarly constrained condition. And we used that black plastic honeycomb product that you fill to the surface with soil. And it looked great. You can't even see the plastic thing at all, and you can use it as a lawn. So that gives a little more usable outdoor space up there. One of the requests is that we study this as a terrace. Right now, and I did look at that, and we even talked to a contractor about it, because it would, in a way, be nice to walk out and have firm soil under you rather than a deck. But in order to do that, we would need to build a new retaining wall, which goes from, this is 0, this is about at floor level right now, and then it goes down to maybe about, here we're 5 feet above floor level. Okay. So we would have to build a new retaining wall under the existing house in order to hold that soil, and a second retaining wall on the outside in order to create a terrace that could hold dirt. So the amount of expenditure to achieve that for the identical amount of usable open space it's not justified at all. And the owners have some ideas about using the volume below this deck to store some rainwater, so they don't have to dump it back out into the street. And this is a good spot for that, as the grade goes from 0 down to 5. So by the time you get down here, there's actually some volume under the deck.
This is also the access to the water heater and everything underneath.
Okay. So we want to keep this as a deck, and we push it all the way out to the setback so that we have the maximum amount of actual usable area at grade. The way it is right now, this is unusable since grade dips down starting right here. change from last time you saw it is proposing to turn this deck around the corners just to make it easy to circulate around the house. The other major thing that you asked us to study was the design of this garage element. And in particular, how the massing broke down and how we dealt with this corner and the double setbacks that we have right here. So I studied a bunch of options, which I'll flip through with you real quick. But at the end of the day, the one that we landed on is to keep this volume really simple because I think it's consistent with the volume of the main house. And just break that back by a foot. Can't go much more than that. Otherwise, we start to lose the usable space inside the garage. And then break this back by 3 foot on the back corner, which gives us a little more room for a tree here, which will soften the massing on that corner. And then it makes this piece seem more consistent with the other volumes that are already on the existing house. There's a shed roof piece on the front, a shed roof over the entry, and this will be a consistent shed roof on the side. And I'll flip and show you what that looks like. So it's a realistic, strong corner that holds down and holds this volume real simple, mimicking the way the front of the house looks as it faces Valeria. There were some suggestions to study this facade on how to soften that massing, perhaps with a trellis or other items. And what I arrived at here was a bay window up above, so that it breaks the verticality of the mass in a way that's consistent with the existing house, these shed roof elements over the entry and the Valerio side. And then this little piece here feels like a real simple component added to the side. The garage of the neighbors, this roof used to continue and then back down as part of our garage, and we're proposing to just gable that roof with a simple new door that faces the street. And then here's the existing house, which we're not touching. This actually is less the size of a garage, more the size of that's almost shed-like in scale. But I perhaps in this drawing should have faded it back to illustrate how recessed it is. This is near the property line, then this is further back, and this piece is even further back. And Alelia, when I'm done, is going to tell you more about the agreement and discussion with the neighbor right here. So while we're talking about this, the options. We thoroughly studied this thing, and I looked at probably at least every massing concept that I could think of here. I tried the version where we step the second floor back, which is a nice proportion to the ground floor, real traditional with what you see in the neighborhood, but then it makes this feel like a late addition afterthought. Typically in houses in this neighborhood, the 2-story portion is the big volume, and then you break a smaller volume off for the piece that's in front, and this is kind of the inverse of that. So I don't like this version. It also makes the window, the fenestration a little bit strange upstairs. I thought maybe we could do a little deck. I don't think this committee would probably let me get away with a deck that close to the property line. That's probably a non-starter, although I think it's not bad. We would lose some square footage upstairs because we'd have to chop back another at least 3.5 feet in order to even have a step-out balcony. This is similar to what we arrived at. I was playing with the idea of moving that stair around to the side yard, which would allow us for a little bit more flexibility with how far you can push this element back. But this is our only usable yard, and it's already really squeezed, so I didn't want to put the stair in the side yard. Tried several versions where we do this traditional craftsman massing. The thing I'm running into with these is it's such a narrow footprint, it's only 20 feet, that the eaves can't climb high enough to get enough usable headroom inside. So this standard craftsman trick doesn't really work on this small of a footprint. That was my study. That one would look great, but you only get usable head height by the time you get to the very, very center. So it starts to it starts to make the idea of doing the garage less viable as we do those alternative massings. And I feel like this is the most consistent with what's there. It feels like it's part of the house that's been there for 100 years. Is there anything on the list that I didn't?
You were going to study the window fenestrations on the house.
Was that one of my?
Well, they didn't agree.
Jobs?
The original elevations didn't agree with your rendering.
Yeah,
you said you liked your rendering.
Everyone said that we liked those. I took them out, the CAD versions out of the set. This is a more aesthetically pleasing rendition of the elevations. So when we go and develop the project, we'll use this as our template.
So basically, these are divided into 3, 3, and then that's 5.
5. Yeah.
3, 5, 3. 3, okay. And this is the side of the garage, correct?
Right, that's the inside, so that's that side.
This is the looking towards the neighbor?
Correct.
And then that's the back side?
Correct.
Okay. All right, anything else?
Study the columns. We're going to do these columns on this porch. We'll grab a detail from the traditional craftsman houses in the neighborhood. If you go one to the next block down on Olive, there's 5 of those in a row that are really handsome. And I just want to use that same tapered column idea design that you see there. Curb cut sidewalk, neighbor landscape plan. I guess now Aurelia can maybe describe what she's arrived at with the neighbor.
So we took a first stab at a neighbor agreement with our neighbor. You guys all met Teddy. She came and spoke about her concerns. And unfortunately, she's away for a month, but we did, before she left, drew up kind of a non-binding but directional agreement of who would cover what and what we were going to do. She's very supportive because she really, really wants her own driveway. So basically, we talked about doing this gabling that Dan showed you, and outlined in this letter, which you can have a copy of, who is responsible for what part of that. Basically, we took responsibility for design, the new firewall. She's responsible for the door and part of the roof. And we outlined that in bullet points in here, and then all signed it. So though it's not a legal document, it shows that we're in a cooperative effort. Yeah.
Mr. Ng, before we go to public comment, just so we follow up on this, is this issue of having to split this garage and reconstruct it not from our board standpoint, but from the city standpoint, how do they get into that issue, or is that that's just really between the two neighbors? Do you know?
When you say get into the issues, in what respect do you mean?
And respect the fact that if we chose at some point to approve this project as it's more or less presented at this point, where we're basically tearing this garage in half.
Correct.
And the neighbors have come to an agreement about how to treat that garage, even though this piece is before us in the official application, that's not. Does the city get in, outside this board, do they get in any other discussion, or is that just up to the two owners?
As far as the responsibility for the work, that's up to the two
zoning
owners.
Setbacks or any of those kind of things?
There are some zoning issues that this proposal raised because that the neighbors, that small one-car garage is located right up against the property line. Changes to the roof line will require a zoning modification.
So this owner would have to get a zoning modification to allow this little sketch that we're looking at to exist, correct?
To alter the height of the roof to make it a gable roof.
So it would require them to go through the staff hearing process?
Yes.
Okay. And there's a fee and so forth and so on.
So that's all outlined in here.
So that's outlined, and they kind of
I
understand that that's going to happen.
I also spoke with Building and Safety about how they handle a by parcel application, and they said they actually have done it and do it, and that it would basically be a sub to our permit.
Okay.
So our permit would not close out until she did the work.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that.
All right, that kind of answers my question.
Yeah,
okay.
Something like that. That's how she explained it. But yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Can I follow up on that real quick?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Who's financially responsible for the fees for the mod, the person that's doing the actual?
So in here, we said she was responsible for permits and mod, but again, we're still working that out, and I think we're all in a very cooperative mood about this, and so we will.
But there's no set rule who's responsible. It has to be kind of worked out between the two of you.
Well, in here it says she's responsible.
But
so
that's by
obtain
agreement.
any permits required to make structural changes.
Right.
So that
Oh, I
is
see,
included.
'cause it's
Yeah.
on her property. That's on her property.
May I ask a question
Yes.
about that same thing? So, is that size of the new garage, can a car fit in there?
And a car can't fit in it currently.
Oh, and a car can't, so is that going to raise any
I
issues?
spoke with zoning,
Yeah.
and no, they said they would approve it. They kind
grandfather
of have
it.
no choice, is what they said.
Okay.
Because at least one is becoming usable space.
It's an existing non-conforming
Correct.
situation.
Yeah.
You might be able to fit a car in it, depending on how
small
the door was designed. You know, it's 9 feet
Okay.
outside, so.
Thank you for the clarification on that. Let's then go to public comment. Mr. Ng, do we have any letters?
No, we do
Communication?
not.
Do we have anyone in the public wishing to address this item? Okay, seeing none, the chair will close public comment and bring back to the board for the remaining questions.
I have one question. Is that little garage?
Correct.
Okay.
It's right on the property line, so I didn't think it made sense to draw a.
Other questions? Yes, Ms. Pierce.
I'm not sure what, you're going to probably have to go to fire department, I'll have to. So they usually want the trees 15 feet away, so I don't know how you're going to do that.
Landscape plan.
Where are we looking at? Landscape?
Well, they've got some new trees. There's two, actually. You'd mentioned one, but I see another one. On the new trees on the backside of the garage.
Over here?
Yeah.
It's conceptual.
Is that what we're talking about?
I think the idea there is we're just proposing some landscaping to soften that massing from the viewpoint of the neighbors. If the fire department won't let us do a tree,
Right.
we'll do a bush or something.
Yeah, they have certain heights. And so I was just pointing that out. You might come across that. And then on Olive Street, is the hedge 42 inches the whole way along?
No, it's not. We're proposing that it start at 42 where the driveway entrance is, and we're required to keep it 42 on 10 feet either side. But then as the grade drops, the hedge stays level up to this point, and then it steps down again. So it starts at about 42 here and stays level as the grade drops.
Okay.
So it's probably more like 5 feet or 4.5 feet by the time you get down there.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
I have one question. Well, I guess it's more of a well, no, it's a question and a comment, but I'll save the comment. But the new deck that you increased the size of, what is the size of the deck?
The size of this.
So, roughly.
Well, let's see, that's 6
Just
feet,
roughly.
so about 10 feet, I would say.
So that's about
Guessing.
6, because it just seems, well, I'll save this for comments, but I did want that rough
12 by, roughly 12 by 40.
40 by 12.
40 by 12. Okay. All right, other questions? Let's see, I'm just going to go to a few small ones. The trash cans, are those in the setback? No.
They are, and planning staff, and this is where they are right now.
Right.
There's a hedge here, so they're handily concealed behind the hedge. And
Right.
planning staff said, no, we're not going to support you on this. Take them off the plan. So we'll
where
find a
do
new.
you think you're going to put them?
We'll find a new place. Maybe they'll have to go back here,
Okay.
or somewhere else. I don't know.
And over in this corner, there's a pin right now. I assume that's going away, correct?
Oh, there's a chicken coop?
Yeah.
It's actually already gone away.
Okay. So
Last
gone away.
week.
Okay. It was there the other day when I was there.
Yeah.
Okay. You've talked about access under here, and you've rationalized why it really needs to be a deck. So do we have any sketches yet of what the access point might look like and where it might be?
On this back side, as you walk down this little side yard, under the house there's this lattice skirting that conceals the foundation. And right now there's a double, is it a double or a single?
It's a single, but it's wide.
It's a wide
Door.
single
Door.
just almost like a fence, not really a door. It's faced with this hatching, the same lattice work. So
That's under the house.
it goes into the crawl space, and you
So
can kind of
that's where you can get in.
That's where you can get in, yeah.
Mention
You probably could do it right here from the side yard, but it's just a little low. As you go down here, it gets more
A little bit, okay.
comfortable height.
So maybe
you
when
can
you come
hunch
back,
over and walk under there.
when you come back, you can show us what that looks like. Let's see. Square footage of the deck we asked about. Agreement on the garage you shared with us. And then the only other question I have on the hedge that is towards this neighbor, you're going to grow to 8 feet. Have you shared that with the neighbor? And are you
It's actually vacant right now. There's no one living there. And they actually, on their side, have a very tall
I recall there's
bamboo or
there's
something,
a bunch of
something
stuff
tall.
in there.
Yeah.
Figure out what was it. Okay.
So, yeah, there's no one to share with.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Those are my questions. Any other questions? Okay. Let's see. We're here because we're here still for comments only because they still need to go to the staff hearing officer. And remind us again the modifications you have to ask for.
We asked for 2 modifications. One was for alterations to the openings in the front yard setback, which
right here,
which this board told us last time that you're supportive of, and we're not proposing any changes to them.
Okay.
And the other was for non-conforming dimensions to the required open yard area, which you also last time said you were supportive, and we're not proposing any changes to those either.
All right. Thank you for reminding me of that. So in your comments and in whatever motion you choose to make, we do need to, in fact, then put those previous comments about the aesthetic acceptability of the 2 modifications into the motion. So, comments.
I have comments, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think you did a really good job. I think you've been very sensitive and went all different options. I've thought about this. There's architects that it's all about the architect, and then there's architects and it's all about the architecture. And I think in this case, you really complemented this architecture and bringing this house back alive. So I can completely support this. I can completely support your modification. Great job. Thank you.
I agree.
Other comments?
I think that was very well put. I agree too.
Okay. Could you go back and put your sketches up here? And I just
the elevation page?
No, that's fine. I just want to share with folks, this is the kind of response I'd like to see when we ask people to do studies. This is really helpful. It shows that there was some thought brought into it. I was struggling a little bit about the streetscape. As this remodel kind of weaves itself into the rest of that block, into that neighborhood, and as I think I shared last time, I've done a lot of study of Olive Street. Spent a lot of time over the years kind of watching that street. This is the one that I think in my own viewpoint I would have done if I were the assigned architect, because I think that, in my mind, weaves in a little better the fabric. But having said that, I think you've taken some time to really justify your approach. I think that's appropriate. This is a case where, this is where you can get down to 2 architects looking at the same thing and disagreeing and still coming up with a good solution one way or the other. So I think that solution or the one he's presenting are both perfectly acceptable. But I'd certainly encourage applicants and designers to share with us this approach.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
While you're on that, can you put the one with the deck, the proposal, back up for a second?
With the what?
The deck.
You had a little sketch.
Oh, yeah.
I was just, when you showed that, I thought, well, what if you made that deck a little smaller? Would that be an option?
This is the deck that's on the garage,
Right.
not over here. So
Right,
I think he
that's
was
the deck
proposing a
on the-
little tiny deck up here in the front.
Oh, I was thinking, what if you made this deck smaller somehow, like a lot smaller?
I don't think it would work. It's just he's still fighting the 15 feet rule that we.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I think he was correct. He gave it a shot, but I think that's perfectly fine. Okay. Other comments? Okay. Chair will entertain a motion for comments only. Please include language in there about the 2 modifications.
Make a motion.
Okay.
Thank you. The board would like to continue this project on to staff hearing officer, and we are it, right? in support of the two modifications, that the non-conforming front yard dimensions are aesthetically acceptable, along with the front yard setback. We appreciate the sensitivity and effort the architect and client have gone through to make the project what it is.
Okay, that's
the motion.
That's the motion on the floor. Is there a second to that?
Board Member James, I just want to clarify that the non-conforming, that was for the open yard, not the front yard.
Open yard.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is a second. Did we get a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, there is a second to the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Chair will ask for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so carried. Okay, so you're off to do what you need to do, and then we'll see you back here.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We're at 20 minutes of 5 o'clock. Our next item is scheduled for 5:05. I don't see the applicant in the room, so the chair again will recess. Oh, we have an applicant here.
It's one of those extra.
I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everybody from the place. Come on, little raindrops, I've got a smile on my face. And I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain, and I'll be singing, just singing in the rain. And let the stormy clouds chase everybody from the place. Come on, little raindrop, I've got a smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain, and I'll be singing in the rain, singing in the rain. Let the stormy clouds chase. Get out, everybody from the place. Come on, little raindrops, I've got a big fat smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane, I'll keep a happy refrain. I'll be screaming and singing in the rain. I'm singing in the rain. I'm singing in the rain.
No one ever tells you what it's like to love and lose, how it feels to waken and have breakfast with the blues, how to go on living, how to face another day. No one ever tells you the way. And no one ever tells you how it feels to walk alone, listening for those footsteps through the echo of your own. All at once it hits you, all those dreams weren't worth a dime, 'cause no one ever tells you in time. Long before the icy winds of winter, autumn tells the swallows time to fly. Why did she pretend till the bitter end, till it broke my heart to say goodbye? Bye-bye, baby, no one ever tells you that it's just another fling. No one ever warns you when your heart begins to sing. Someone tells you later all is fair in love and war. But no one ever tells you before, baby. No, no one ever tells you before.
Don't have to be beautiful to turn me on. I just need your body, baby, from dusk till dawn. You don't have to have experience to turn me out. You just leave it all up to me. I'm gonna show you what it's all about. You don't have to be rich to be my girl. You don't have to be cool to rule my world. Ain't no particular sign I'm more compatible with. I just want your extra time and your kiss. You got to not talk dirty, baby, if you want to impress me. You can't be too flirty, mama. I know how to undress me. I wanna be your fantasy. Maybe you could be mine. You just leave it all up to me, and we can have a real good time. You don't have to be rich to be my girl. You don't have to be cool to rule my world. Ain't no particular sign I'm more compatible with. I just want your extra time and your kiss. Women, not girls, rule my world. I said they rule my world. Act your age, not your shoe size, rule my world. You don't have to watch MTV to have an attitude. You just leave it all up to me. My love will be your food. You don't have to be rich to be my girl. You don't have to be cool to rule my world. Ain't no particular sign I'm more compatible with. I just want your extra time and your extra time and your extra time and your kiss.
Kind of town, Chicago is my kind of town. Chicago is my kind of people too. People who smile at you, and each time I roam, Chicago is calling me home. Chicago is one town that won't let you down. It's my kind of town. My kind of town. Chicago is my kind of town. Chicago is my kind of razzmatazz, and it has all that jazz, and each time I leave, Chicago is tugging my sleeve. Chicago is one town that won't let you down. Is my kind of town. The loop at nighttime, Chicago is. Oh, hey, at flight time, Chicago is. The stadium at fight time, Chicago is. Wall Street at tide time, Chicago is. One town that won't let you down is mine.
Chair is going to reconvene Monday, March 9th. Single Family Design Board meeting. We're on item number 5, 701 Island View Drive. This is a new item. This is a proposal for 136 square foot first floor and 628 square foot of a second floor additions to an existing one-story, 1,470 square foot single family residence with an attached 441 square foot two-car garage. Proposed total of 2,601 square feet on a 10,000 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District is 70% of the required maximum floor to lot area ratio. This includes staff hearing officer review for zoning modifications to allow a substantial change in the basic exterior characteristics of a residence that is non-conforming to front and interior setbacks. This is here for comments only. Project requires an environmental assessment and a staff hearing officer review for a request and zoning modification. If you could introduce yourselves, please.
I'm Greg Jenkins, the architect, and this is Ann Peterson representing the family.
Okay, thank you. If you could share with us what you're doing, please.
Be happy to. This is located up off of Meigs Road, past the summit of Carrillo Hill. So an island view has a little loop that includes surf view. So it's above Cliff Drive area. As you mentioned, we are proposing an addition that goes to approximately 70% of the floor area ratio versus 80 to 100. So we're attempting to hold things within reason. We've gone through a few design iterations up to this point. One included a balcony at one time, but we've done away with that. We had a larger second floor, which would have increased the mass of the second floor roof. We didn't go with that. So we're going with, you can see the configuration of the second floor addition is the cross-hatching going this direction, and the first floor addition is the cross-hatching going this direction. So we're doing a minor addition at the front. So this is the existing footprint at the front. So we're pushing out with this bedroom and pushing out with the entry. I'm sorry, pushing out with this bathroom. And then in back, we're increasing the size of the kitchen, converting this to a laundry, as you'll see from the remodel plan, and then a little pop out here. The existing footprint, the home, when this home and this tract was originally designed, the side yard setbacks were 8 feet, and the front yard setback was 25 feet. It's been downzoned or upzoned, I don't know which is the right term, to 10 feet now for the side yard setback and 30 foot for the front yard setback. So for modification, we're wanting to change some windows along this south wall, so that triggers the modification. And then we're, as you'll see in the floor plan, we're attempting to make this bathroom and entry more handicap accessible. Mrs. Peterson is in a debilitating situation, eventually may be confined to a wheelchair. So we're trying to anticipate some of that. This is the proposed remodel. So here you can see the entry and then the bathroom configuration. The dashed line indicates the existing footprint. So we're creating a shower that can be handicap accessible. This pocket door can go away if need be eventually. They wanted it now. Downstairs, again, there's the kitchen addition, laundry, minor addition. So we're eliminating a bedroom downstairs in favor of another bathroom. So the bedroom count remains as is. It's a 3-bedroom, was a 3-bedroom and is still a 3-bedroom. And we're just adding a bathroom, and then we're also adding a family room upstairs. So we have kind of a multi-shaped, multifaceted footprint upstairs, again allowing the roof lines to stay within reason. So the ground floor is an 8-foot plate. We're figuring 12 inches of framing for the floor system, and another 8-foot plate. And then we're matching the roof pitch, which is 4.5 and 12. So going to the exteriors. And I actually brought, if you don't mind, if you'd rather not see this, I can take it away. This is the same elevation, no architectural changes, but it's a little more detail as far as dimensions and also dotted in the existing profile. So from the front, you can see the existing profile continues and then falls at that point. So here you can see the addition that we're doing. The home itself is kind of a faux shaker style, for lack of any other definition. Okay, yeah. So it's classic tract style, and so we're, rather than completely redesigning the whole house, we're taking those elements and we're repeating them. So in the front, we're having kind of a triple gable that steps away as the plan progresses. And then along the south elevation, we're picking up some of these little pop-outs along the side here. And then again on the back, we're picking up, some of these, shaker elements as well. So we're introducing, kind of breaking up the roof line a bit as far as this is south exposure, so we're trying to get some shade on some of these windows as well. So we walked the neighborhood. I know we had neighbor interest. The only neighbor that I've actually spoken with regarding substance and concern was there is a neighbor that is 2 doors up, and I brought some aerial photographs that you can see as well. So this also lets you see the contour and the topography of the neighborhood. So this is our parcel. I've had a conversation with this neighbor here, and he's concerned with the addition taking away some of his ocean view.
That's this neighborhood.
That is that neighbor there, correct. Right. So I believe this tree has been trimmed down since this photo has been taken, so I don't know if there was persuasion on behalf to lower that, but his pad is 15 foot 9 inches higher than our pad, and the closest corner of his home to our second floor addition is over 165 feet. So, we could be 30 feet tall. We're not. We're 21 foot 4 feet tall. Recognizing this is a a view neighborhood. There are 3 other homes. These homes with blue check marks are 2-story homes. So we're not the only one in the neighborhood. I sympathize. I would like to get up there and look at the view from his property. I don't know if the owner wants to go to the full expense of doing professional story poles, but if the neighbor and I were to go out there and assemble something, if that would meet your needs and your desires, and then potentially address that neighbor's concerns further. But that's the only comment that I've heard so far. You can also see from this vantage point here, there's significant vegetation between our home and the downhill side. So this window here from the second floor is going to have good screening. So we're not looking down in anyone's backyard. And we're not looking up at anyone's front yard because our focus is mainly towards the view. So, I can provide any answers to any additional questions. I know there's other photos that were submitted. That,
do we have other photos?
You can,
yeah, maybe we could see those.
See as well at your leisure. I also brought a tracked map which can show additional distances and what have you, because the flood control map is a little vague.
Which one's your house?
This one, I didn't mark this one up, but we are here. And then this is a neighbor who's had concerns. So you can, So, their focus.
Okay.
Everything steps down.
So you see the city.
We see the ocean. No, we look towards the ocean.
Let me see if I can
So the ridge of Carrillo Hill is here. Cliff Drive is down here. So Pacific Ocean is way out that way.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we bring the questions to the board, we're going to go to public speakers and also to letters. Mr. Ng, as far as I can tell, we have 1 letter. Is that correct? 2. Where am I missing?
One's a really big package.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
And then there's, let's see. So you have this one, right? Yeah. And then it's this one.
Other copies for the applicant?
Just a moment. Let's find them out first. I've got 3 for the next item. So there's just 1 letter, correct? Okay.
Fred, give it to me.
Okay. Yeah, we can give you this letter. Okay. I want to cover this letter because I'm assuming you've all had time to look at it, but I do want to go through it just because there's a lot of information here that this person has provided. This person apparently is, if I can find the correct address, appears to be a resident at 649 Island View Drive. Do we have any clue where that might be?
I don't.
Oh, and Mr. Chair, there is a speaker slip. That gentleman who submitted the letter is here.
Oh, okay, so it's the same person. All right, well then, instead of going through the letter, may we have Mr. Henriksen please come forward? And if I can have you sit over here and you can use that microphone, please.
Okay.
So you have 2 minutes to address the board. If you could speak into that microphone, please. Thank you.
Okay. Well, the first concern I have is a loss of privacy in my backyard. This is a...
Can you share with, maybe on this map, where are you in relationship to the house, please?
Actually, there's a handout here that I think identifies that maybe even more plainly than the plot map. The Peterson proposed addition is here. Oh, okay.
So that's this. I've got it right here.
Yeah.
So where are you?
This is 701, Peterson proposed addition, and this is me at 649 Island View Drive. So we're adjacent houses.
Okay, so on this map, where are you? That's the house for application. This is going down the hill.
Yeah, this is going down.
So that's you right there. Okay, thank you.
So you're next door.
Next door neighbor.
Immediately down
to
and
the
down
south.
To the south. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So the two concerns I have are the first is the loss of privacy, and this is a picture of my backyard, and everything to this side of the line is visible from the second floor addition, and so that includes my patio entertaining area. And an observer standing here looking toward the proposed remodel would see this, a pretty full view of the second floor of the proposed remodel.
Put it into the video thing.
So that's the reason that I'm a little concerned about the loss of privacy. The next issue that I had, this is a little further description of the southern view of the addition. Remember, my house is here and looking up at the southern. The current first floor wall is at 8 feet, and then there are some appurtenances added to that in this proposal which bring the overhang to 5.5 feet from the property line. And in addition to that, major restructuring of the windows. Currently there are in this wall of this home 2 windows for 44 square feet. And the proposal is to increase it to 6 windows, 3 of them contiguous, 68 feet. So there's a 50% increase in window area, roughly, a little over that, in fact.
Okay.
And then my final concern has to do with I'm convinced that this is likely to become a 2-family residence. The Petersons have owned this home since about 2001. And about 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, some person came to my front yard and introduced herself as the new tenant in the home. And subsequent to that, another neighbor told me that the Petersons had been going around the neighborhood talking about the fact that they would like to add some private space of their own to the home so that they could live there as well. And so that created a concern on my part. And then when I see the drawings, the first floor, of course, remains fully functional as a single-family residence, but the second floor has a bathroom, a bedroom, a large family room with a refrigerator and a sink so that it's fully plumbed. If somebody wanted to put a small kitchen in there, it would be very easy. So those are my 3 concerns.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other one from the public wishing to speak? Mr. Henderson, before you leave, I just want to make sure I understand. If I orient your little plan here for your backyard patio deck, this is looking to the west, correct?
This is south. This is up toward the...
Okay. So in relationship to this little diagram, which appears to be different, there appears to be another, is there another piece of the house here?
Actually, there are 2 pieces that don't show on here, and one is a family room down at this end, and you can see it jutting out here.
Okay, so that happened right here, probably?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, but
something like that?
More like that.
Okay. And then there's this piece?
And then there's a bedroom wing, that goes like this.
Okay. So
the roof, the peak of this roof is really what determines the view from the second floor.
And so you were indicating if somebody was standing down in this corner, they could see up into here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure we understand what your concern is. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Which one of this was his house? This one?
This one.
That was his house.
Well, I don't see any pop out in the back here, so I don't quite know.
Well, anyway, that's the information we have. Okay. Is there any further public speakers? Cheryl, close public speaking and go back to the board for questions. But before we do that, I see staff is here. Do you have something to share with us?
Joanne LeConte, Assistant Planner. I'm just commenting on what the modification requests are for this project. And so it's my understanding that front setback modification is to add the small shower addition that will encroach into the required front setback on the first floor.
I'm sorry, the small what?
Shower addition.
Shower?
For the handicap accessibility bathroom. And that would be the front setback mod, and the interior setback mod was to add a window in the setback, and that the second story addition would conform to the current setback requirements. So I don't know where the other windows are located. if they're the ones that are concerned for the speaker that just spoke, but perhaps the applicant can clarify that further.
Okay, thank you. Okay, questions to the board?
I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't catch it, but was there any consideration to centering the second story?
We had pursued that earlier on, and from the structural standpoint and from the logical standpoint of the plumbing, we decided to offset it. Virtually every two-story home in this neighborhood, the other three I pointed out to you, are all offset. So we're not doing anything that the other neighbors haven't.
Okay, other questions?
I also wasn't catching what the second mod was. A window in the second story in the setback.
No, we're not. The second story requires no modifications.
Okay.
So we're changing windows on the south elevation.
Okay.
Your photographs may show the existing ones, but this window configuration is changing. This is currently a bedroom addition. The bedroom's going away in favor of a bathroom. And then this is a new window. So this bedroom currently does not have a window facing towards the ocean view. So that's new. These are revised. These are revised.
So the south is the back of the house.
The side of the house.
The side of the house.
Okay.
The modification, if I can elaborate too, on the front yard, the modification in the front yard actually does not go any closer to the street. So the house itself is 25 feet off the street, and our slight addition is way further away than that. So we're not exploiting that front yard at all.
Okay, other questions?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's the south elevation that looks at the neighbor. Is that correct?
Yes.
There's quite a bit of vegetation. On the south and west.
Yes, we are. The photographs show it quite well as far as that vegetation, and so I'm confident that we're not going to be looking down into their backyard from these windows here in particular, because the vegetation is in front of that. So we're not anticipating changing that at all.
And just to clarify, because I think two of my colleagues were out of the room when you started, so you guys, I think what you were saying was that originally there were some decks, but you took them away, so there actually right now aren't any decks to stand on and look out at neighbors.
Right.
Okay, other questions? Okay, I'm going to go to mine. Can we determine what is the differential? This is at roughly 359. That's at 365. So it's
this
about
is minus 5.8 feet.
So it's about 5 feet down, and this is a single-story residence in a traditional 3 and 12 or 4 and 12 pitch roof.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on an 8-foot plate.
Correct. It's actually closer to 6 feet down, so it's 5.8 feet, so
Okay.
5'10".
So we've got a picture there. Did you provide us any street elevation photographs?
I did not, other than your photograph does show the adjacent neighbors. I don't have a site section, and I don't have a full streetscape for you.
Okay, so this is your house here, correct?
Correct. And there is a formal photograph for the adjacent neighbors. It's further back. Yes. So this is the neighbor towards the south.
So that's the neighbor to the south. Right. Okay. So what I can't tell, and I walked out there the other day, is I couldn't tell whether or not there was any fence in here or retaining wall.
I don't believe there is back here. There's a low block wall with chain link on top of it back here that's buried in the vegetation. But I don't know that there is.
It didn't appear to me. It looks like it's just a landscape grade that goes down that 5 or 6 feet
Yeah,
differential.
I'm not certain, Mr. Chair.
And then there is obviously these large power poles that run at the back of the house. And based on your site plan, I believe those power poles were outside your property or outside the fence?
Outside the fence.
So your property goes here. So
Correct.
is this a Edison easement? Is that
No,
what's going on here?
there's an Edison easement here. There may be an Edison easement there. I'm not positive. It doesn't affect us.
So this is it says here a 6-inch chain link over block wall. So that's going to stay, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Over to this point. So that's the point where we didn't see a fence of any sort, just landscaping.
Right.
Okay. And then on your elevations, do you have other than the photograph, which was here a second ago, do you have an elevation of the existing south elevation? Do you have a drawing of that?
I don't.
Okay. So as best I can tell, there's a window on the south elevation here, which corresponds to what? That group right there.
This window here is this group here.
That here.
Right. And then there is no window down here.
And so you're introducing a
Blank.
window here, and this is a different window than this window
Yes.
here, correct?
Yeah, slightly wider.
And these are two windows that would replace that. And so those look into, on the first floor, if I can go back to your plan, those go into this created new bathroom. Those go into a bedroom, and those go into a bedroom, okay? And then I think I got your plate height. There is a door to the hot water heater, and I think that's what I'm looking at on your front elevation right there.
Correct.
Okay, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then on the second floor, this little pop out here is off of what room?
That's off of the second floor bedroom.
What's this?
Come on.
That's right
bay
here.
right there.
Okay, that bay right there. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Other questions? Okay, let's go to comments.
Oh, I have one more question.
Yes.
The current distance between the existing house and the next door neighbor, there's a fence between the 2 yards right now, is there? And if so, what is the distance between the two properties?
15, let's see, we're 28, we're 25 feet. 25 feet.
17 and
So
8 is
17,
25.
So between the side of this one and then the other one's lower, their side, there's 25 feet.
25 feet.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to comments then. This is here for comments only. It requires a staff hearing officer on the mods. So in our discussion, we may decide to incorporate language about the mods. This is as you recall, one of the things we can do today is we can just give it comments only and encourage the applicant to return based on those comments. Or we can give it comments and give some indication to the applicant that we are comfortable that he proceed to the staff hearing officer. So there's, excuse me, generally two directions that we can proceed in. So it just depends where you want to go with your comments. Comments, please. Mr. Norn.
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with the floor plan. I think the floor plan is good, but I'm a little uncomfortable with the fact we had this similar situation in this area last time where the second story is kind of towering over into the three-quarter of the next neighbor. And so I was thinking how you can push this back a little bit to kind of neutralize it, but then you're kind of got this roof thing down below that you're working with. I don't know if I can't quite support the second story, how it's configured. I think these windows, the ocean view is this way, right? Or it's this way. I really have a hard time orienting south and south. So I understand why you're putting those big windows in there. Unfortunately, I think it's a little, based on the topography of the development, I don't think I could support it quite like this because of the fact that you do have another house below you and there's privacy issues, so that I think that windows are a little too large for me to support it right now. I think somehow there's this, if this second floor was pushed back a little bit, it would work better, but I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. I can't quite support the way it is right now, though I it's a good approach.
Okay. Other comments?
Yes. Well, I'm having a problem as well, and it's more to do with the fact that of the offset addition that Jamie brought up. It looks like an addition, and I think that's my biggest problem with it, as well as the extra large window that looks right down onto the neighbor from the family room on the south elevation. I don't think anyone would like that, if they had to live next door and have their privacy interrupted. So I also am in a position where I can't really support the project as is until we see another pass at it, perhaps.
Okay. Other comments?
Mr. Hendrickson's presentation, he has two outbuildings that aren't on the. How old are they?
I understand. Yeah, so
I don't know how old the photographs.
How old are they?
These are Google Earth.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, these are printed off the computer today.
Yeah,
this morning.
Two outbuildings.
Yeah, it's hard to say when Google Earth flew these, so
Yeah.
these may be a year or so old.
This is copyright 2015, but
who knows
yeah,
when they flew.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay.
I kind of support, Brian, if I knew that these two buildings were not there, these two outbuildings, but evidently they're on Mr. Hendrickson's drawings, but they're not on any other drawings. Okay. We asked Mr. Hendrickson.
Well, I think the appropriate approach, you may want to ask the applicant to provide us, one of the things that was going to be my comment, is I sense where some of the board members are going, is I think what we're looking for is some indication of what really is south, probably a study section, so that we can determine what can actually be seen. One of the challenges here is we're not here to guarantee anybody's private views. Okay? The city basically has told us that's not the job we have. However, we are sensitive to the privacy of individuals, and particularly where they're immediately adjacent to other homes. My sense is the applicant has bedrooms all facing on that first floor. I'm sure they're as sensitive about privacy as the adjacent neighbor, but I think we need to see a elevation of what the south windows and elevation look like now. I think we need to see a site section so that it picks up that southerly neighbor, so we understand what the differentials look like, where the ridge lines are of the existing house. They don't have to be perfect. We realize, we're not asking you to go out and measure that. With regards to the issue of story poles, this board at some point may decide to do story poles, and that will be a requirement. And there are in the guidelines, we have 3 options for how story poles will be implemented. You might want to review those, but it's the purview of this board to decide whether or not we use story poles and to what level. And in that case, then once story poles are up, they'll be notified to the various neighbors. I can't tell you at this point whether the board will do that, but that's certainly an option that the board has. So I've got other comments, but I don't want to go too far unless someone else has comments.
I have a few comments.
Yes, go ahead.
In general, I probably am going to agree with my 2 colleagues in that we need to study how tall the second story is and how it looks down, and can it possibly be tweaked? Can it be mitigated somehow, or how can we create a balance so that everybody gets treated fairly? And then as far as the mods, I think I can support the front one with the small shower. I think that's reasonable, and I think the window in the second story, I'm not sure. I think
What second story?
it's in the downstairs. Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we'll have to kind of wait and see what everybody wants to do with the addition and how that fits in. Other than that, I think you have a project that we can work with. We just need to tweak it.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Okay, I'm going to finish my comments. I want folks to understand, particularly the southerly neighbor, in looking at this plan, and we see a lot of plans, and there's an occasion where we do look at plans and we can readily tell this board is, I think, fairly intelligent. We can tell if someone's trying to pull a fast one on us in terms of having a second residence or multiple residents in something that's supposed to be single family. There's nothing in this plan at the moment that hints to me that this is going to be easily made into anybody's two-family residence. Having said that, in the family room on the second floor, I think that needs to be could be smaller. I think I agree with my colleagues. This second floor element really needs to be reworked and pushed back from this corner edge. I think if I start looking at the elevations, and I go here, I understand that the view to the ocean is from here, and to this side you've got this huge view in both directions. But I think that the window layout, excuse me, is proportionally not as sensitive as it should be. There's a little effort here to begin to shade those windows because they're going to get really hot. They're south-facing. They're going to face the sun all day long. It's a challenge we have over on that part of our city where we get a lot of people wanting to have big windows, and they're going to heat up. I think that the relationship and proportion to the eave needs some work on this side. I'm not too sure that given the circumstance and the vegetation, et cetera, that these windows and these bedrooms need to be as large as they are. Obviously, you have the required code access out of those windows in case of emergency. I understand that, but I think these need to be restudied. I think on the front elevation, this is probably not a good solution. Having a hot water heater door to the front yard, to the street side is probably not a good thing. Maybe there's another way to do this. If you go to tankless, a tankless hot water system, they actually can go in a much smaller space. I think that this composition right here needs some work. I don't think it's there yet. The relationship of now these tiny windows to the eave line needs some work in terms of proportion. So there needs to be some work on here. I think that this configuration was a little awkward on the west side, although not a lot of folks will see it. I think it's not there. It needs some more work. And I think you could really think about how you get these windows to work to your advantage and have less of an impact, less potential impact to the neighborhood in the south. But I really need to see kind of what's going on in the south on that southerly property line. If that, in fact, is a garage or some portion of a home on the southerly side that doesn't have exposure, that's a little different than if there are a lot of bedrooms and other spaces down in that part of the camera, that part of the house. So I think this project can get there. I just think it needs some work at this point.
Mr. Chair,
just one moment. Are there any other comments?
Yeah, I have one more comment.
Yes.
You made a comment about the water heater. I think what you did was the water heater existing is there, but you put the door in the front. I think it needs to stay. If you're going to keep it in the front, have it be this way so it doesn't face out on the street. If you look at the existing floor plan, so Yeah.
Okay?
Another comment.
Yes.
I like the floor plan, but I agree with my colleagues that it should move back. But one big thing I don't like, and I think somebody else mentioned it too. It looks like an addition rather than it's just a second floor added to a first floor.
Yeah,
exactly. You need to a little bit more design into it and make it fit the first floor. Like it just cuts off right here.
Okay. Other comments? Before we go to the board for a motion, yes.
Clarification. Ms. Bernstein mentioned she was following her colleague's comments about height. I didn't hear a comment about height. I think that we are definitely compliant regarding height, and I just wanted to clarify.
If you're looking at plate height, this is not out of the norm. We have 8 feet for structural, 9 feet. That's a normal expectation for a second floor height, and we've got 8'1" to the plate height for the second floor. So those aren't unreasonable floor heights.
I just
That's
want I'd
kind
like
of
your
what we see.
approach to continue on the Shaker American track,
Right.
whatever that style. I think that's a great approach.
It just needs a little more help.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, regarding the height, I mean, I was just, imagining, because of the way the topography is there, so it just might appear a little bit differently. And then I wanted to make sure that you know about the good neighbor stuff, because I'm sure we're going to see you again real soon, and we'll make this all work out for everybody.
Okay. Other comments? Okay. Chair entertains a motion. This is here for comments only. As I stated at the beginning of the item, we can either have it come back before we encourage the applicant to go to the staff hearing officer, or you could send them off to the staff hearing officer with comments.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Or comments.
Yes.
To continue the project indefinitely with the following comments.
To the full board or
to the full board?
Okay.
Sorry. Study the south elevation windows on the second floor, and also consider placement or centering the second floor on top of the first floor, or setting it back somehow. Study reducing the square footage of the second floor family room and some of the bedrooms. Also changing the configuration of the water heater near the front door, either going to a tankless or changing the orientation. And regarding the modifications, I think that they do not, the front mod does not pose issue, nor does the window on the first floor.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
Would the maker of the motion want to consider in direction to the applicant about doing a section study, particularly through the southerly adjacent property for line of sight?
Yes.
Okay.
And with the maker of the motion, don't we have to second the motion first?
No, you can build the motion.
Consider having the applicant bring us a streetscape with the second story photoed into it so that we could see how it appears from the street.
From
the front.
So that would be...
The site section will pick that up.
Oh, the site section will take care of that. Okay.
Okay. That's your motion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there further comment?
So when are they coming back?
Whenever
Whenever you
definitely,
want.
whenever
Okay.
they feel prepared to come back. Any other?
There was a comment made that the second story looked like an addition, so I'd like to suggest to the designer to tap into his creative skills to make it look so not so much as an addition.
Okay. Is that something we'd like in the motion? No?
Yes.
Yes. Is that a friendly amendment? Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Is that acceptable to the seconder? Who seconded the motion?
Nobody.
I don't think we did. I second.
Yes, Bernie seconded the motion. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Okay. That's the motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Chair will call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. We'll see you back here. Okay. Gail? That goes back to... Okay, we're going to go to our last item of the day, item number 6, 19 Canyon Acres Drive.
Oh boy. Okay, that goes. That's controversial.
Goes that way.
I've got a little bit more updated plans.
Okay, I'll put that right there, please. This is a proposal to construct a 32 square foot addition to the main level, a 339 square foot addition to the lower level, and an attached 463 square foot two-car carport with 114 square foot of storage areas. The project includes the conversion of the existing 360 square foot garage into a habitable space, new entry stairs, new retaining walls, 260 cubic yards of grading to an existing 1,613 square foot single family residence. The proposed total of 3,729 square feet on an 18,191 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District is 85% of the guideline floor to lot area ratio. The project includes staff hearing officer review for interior setback modifications. This is here for comments only. Project requires environmental assessment and staff hearing officer review for requested zoning modifications. Welcome. If you could introduce yourself, please.
I'm Dale Pekarik from the Fine Line.
You need to speak into that, please.
I'm Dale Pekarik from the Fine Line. This is George Mansour, the designer, and this is the owner, Uri Dolev.
Okay, welcome. Let's see, just before we go to that, I want to make sure I get this in the right place. Okay. Okay, if you could share with us what you're proposing on your project, please.
What we're doing, where we are today on the modification is we submitted plans back in September of last year to do a addition to the garage, changing the garage into a carport. And by doing so, we went through the building department, and at that point, we found out that we needed to have a modification. So we did a step back, took a look at the entire project, and decided to go all in, get all the project worked out in its entirety to add on the back of the project and be done with it once and for all. In doing so, we're taking the project, a single-family residence, with an attached two-car garage. The two-car garage predates the setback ordinance of today, thereby requiring a modification. And that's the only modification that we're looking for. And that will be converted into habitable space internally, as well as an addition onto the front of it. Down below, we're adding the required parking space by the carport, and on top of that, we will have a viewing deck on top of that. Over here, we are adding a what we call a grotto, is basically a additional room to the attached bedroom here. It's on the lower level, so when you take a look at the house, we're trying to make it a Santa Barbara hillside cottagey feel, similar to what you see on APS and the other homes that are in this area around us. And what we're doing is just filling out the area, going to the property lines where we can, and still keeping within the ordinances and guidelines of both height and setback requirements, other than the modification, without tearing down the building. And all materials are going to
Do you
match.
have a floor plan to show us?
Yes, we do. And here's photographs of the property.
Let's come back to that in a moment.
This is what we're starting from, and then the project we're going to heading into is the main, what we call the main level. The main level is the entrance remains exactly where it is, the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, all this center of the core of the building remains as is. On either side where we're converting the garage, we're making it a master bedroom. We're making 3 master bedrooms on this property just for, the owner's usage. And we have a master bedroom here, existing bathroom with minor modification, and just extending a bedroom off to the back. These stairways go down to a lower level, which is down here for the owner's usage in his hobbies. And then, of course, the carport, which is required by city ordinances. And that meets the criteria of the city ordinance.
Okay. You have some elevations for us to see?
Yes. On the exterior, this is the west side of the house, which on the site plan is this long direction right here. And what we're doing is we have hip roofs on several parts of the house existing, and we're going to continue to add the hip roofs to the house so it doesn't seem like it's as tall as it is, so the house has a tendency to lay back, opening up viewing corridors so it doesn't block the neighbor's view as they, would take a view out to the ocean. This is the back of the house. This is the little side portion, the reverse of this. And then the main part of the house, when you come in, you look at the driveway, this is the lower grotto area with a new bedroom put up above. And we have the side elevation of the carport. And of course, this is the carport face itself. And this is the back side of the house, facing the neighbor to the east. Once again, the materials are going to be matching those that are on the house now. Colors will be similar. Palette, it'll be Santa Barbara sandstone, light colors below, darker color, a little bit darker colors below, and just a little bit lighter as it comes up, so the house doesn't feel like it's even bigger in the eye.
Okay. Other issues? Okay, you have some photographs you want to show us, please?
These photographs here are showing the streetscape looking from the neighbor to the east, which would be looking in this direction here. There's quite a bit of vegetation in and around the neighborhood, tall. It's up to a good 10 feet plus or minus in that area there, so it's very well landscaped. Also looking down the street, it'd be looking down towards this direction here. It's a very long, thin, narrow lot, so this house is very just kind of like shoehorned in there. And this is looking towards the south, looking directly across from the driveway, looking out. There's no neighbors from about this point, this direction, because the land is such, and Foothill Road is right down here. And this is directly looking west, which is this direction down here from standing across the street. So all the houses, you barely can see any house in any of these photographs whatsoever. And this is the property, the neighbor to the west over here. Once again, this is the driveway entrance as we're standing right there. And then the house itself, current house itself. Open this right here. This is the rear of the property, standing in the backyard looking up. It's terraced. It's being developed now as we're going along, as Uri's going along, and it's slowly morphing into something that's very beautiful. Once again, this is the back end of the house. We will be removing this as we get our addition going forward. And this is the flavor of the house that's there with the hip roofs, the multi-broken up windows, French doors, windows, which will keep that same look and the same colors throughout. It's a very cottagey style house, and we're planning to look and keep that. And once again, this is the last view here. We're looking east directly from the back patio through this enormously beautiful oak tree towards the neighbor to the east.
Okay. Anything else you wish to share with us?
That should be all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before we go to questions of the board, we're going to go to public comment, and I want to take just a moment here to see if I make sure I line up letters and... Okay, so that letter belongs to this speaker, I'm assuming, to that speaker. And then... I think that belongs to that speaker, and this belongs to... Okay. We have 3 letters of correspondence. I'm not going to read the 2 of those letters because apparently it appears that those folks are here today and want to speak. There is apparently this was a text that was sent to us just before the meeting from a Joel Bertra.
Butera.
Yep. It lives at 48 Canyon Acres Drive. The setback requirements and zoning ordinances are put into place for a reason. The applicant's parcel is large enough to support an addition, modifications, and variances for parcels that don't fit into the box. For development standards, we do not support any modifications, variances, or alterations that will negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood. Okay, so that was that one document. And so I'm going to open first with Doug Rossi. You'll come forward, please.
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay, and I'm going to need you, if I could get you to step back so he can use this microphone. You'll come over here, please. You'll need to point to the drawings here on the table if you have something to share with us. Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm Doug Rossi. I'm Doug Rossi, and with my wife Kim, we live in the parcel that's right here. Is this? Wait a minute. Where's Canyon
This is the road.
Okay.
This is the road.
Okay, so thank you.
Foothill is down here.
This is south. This is north, generally speaking, and this is our home. The first thing that I wanted to mention is that, this is generally where, as I understand it, the carport and the deck is going to go, and that will take away our sliver of a view to the ocean. And I do realize that you're not the views are not within your purview, but privacy is, and this looks directly into our backyard. And in addition to that, these are our bedrooms are in here, and our family room is right here as well. So that is of significant concern to us. I heard the comment that Mr. Butera said, and I would echo the same comment in terms of the proposed modification to the setback. It's almost interpreted as if this is some kind of interior lot, but to be consistent with the rest of the neighborhood, he should be honoring the same setback in the front, which is, as I understand it, 30 feet. So, and the other point I'd like to bring up is that I'm not familiar terribly with the rules, but it seems as if he's piecemealing his project. He's had a number of projects throughout his parcel over the years, and I don't know what relates to this grandiose thing or not, but certainly the wall that was put in recently does. It certainly appears to provide soil support. And it goes quite a distance up this way and quite a distance up this way and along Canyon Acres significantly as well. And that certainly ties in to the project, I would think. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And finally, I think, or I believe that from time to time, members of your board come out and visit projects. It would certainly be helpful if one or more of you would do that in this case, and we'd be happy to show you around our property as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Kim Rossi is the next speaker, please.
I'm Kim Rossi. I live
If you could speak into this is all recorded, so.
Very good. Okay, so I'm Kim Rossi. That was my husband, Doug, and we live right next door, and I have sort of a list to just go down because that's going to keep me on track. So my first concern is that what Mr. Dolev is proposing is not compatible in mass, bulk, and scale with the neighborhood. He's proposing a FAR, which is 85%, and I did a spreadsheet, which I know that I submitted, and the average FAR in the neighborhood is 48%. So, the ratio of house to lot that he is proposing is just far greater than anything that has been in the past. That's the norm in our neighborhood. He's erected several structures in his backyard, 2 of which are situated on the exact property line with 11 Canyon Acres, and 1 of which is situated within the setback of our property line at 49 Canyon Acres. And it's unclear whether these structures have been included in what is reported as the current square footage of the home, which he's got down here as 1613, although I believe that these structures might add to that square footage. And also, it's a little troubling that those structures aren't included in these illustrations here, in these drawings. You can see them in the aerial photos that I submitted, but they've been left out of these drawings. So my next point is the setback modification for the side yard. The setback affects our yard, and right now there's 10 feet between the lot line and each one of our, there's 10 feet on either side of the line. And so what Mr. Dolev is proposing is to encroach on that space by 5 feet, by expanding the garage. He's proposing to move his inhabitable space 5 feet closer to our home. And there doesn't seem to be anything to justify that modification in terms of, the way the land twists or grades or any design purpose for doing that other than him wanting to have more space.
Okay, your 2 minutes is up. If you could wrap up, please.
Okay, so as other people have talked about, he leaves his property in complete disarray. He's done a bazillion half projects. And in the 14 years I've lived there, the house is just a terminal wreck, and I've included photographs here, and I believe that denigrates our property values. And I had our architect look at the plans, and she believes that what they're doing here is proposing 3 units that can be separate rental units.
If you could wrap it up. Thank you.
And wrap it up. Okay, so I'm respectfully asking the board to protect the neighborhood compatibility, the property values, the mass, bulk, and scale compatibility, good neighboring, and professional practice both in construction and design.
Okay,
thank you.
The next speaker is, I'm not quite sure, is it Fred Keller or Paul Keller? Fred, okay. There's a couple of names here.
I submitted a letter which I hope you received, and knowing that you're tight for time on this.
If you just speak into that microphone, thank you.
Knowing that you're tight for time, if it would speed things up, I'm prepared to answer any questions that my letter may have raised in your minds.
And sir, while you're sitting here, if you could share with us, do we have maybe I can use this map here. We just would like to know where you live in relationship to this house. Maybe this is helpful. That's the house. Where do you live in relation?
I'm directly south of Erie.
So it's on this side of Canyon?
It's on the foothill side of
Okay.
Canyon Acres.
Thank you. Very helpful. Okay, anything else?
And one other thing that I'd like to emphasize is that Yuri and I have been neighbors for a long time, and he's worked on his home continually for the last 25 years approximately. It's been continually torn up, and he does the work himself, which is admirable that he wants to do that, but he doesn't always have the skill. And he's caused tremendous impact to the neighborhood. He's ruptured the main gas line in Canyon Acres, causing evacuation of all of the properties on the street by the Santa Barbara Fire Department. He's broken the water mains. He's broken the sewer mains in attempting to hook up himself to these structures. And also, as an inadvertent final fill-up to his accidents, he was responsible indirectly for knocking out the power lines to Canyon Acres. So the prospect of him continuing to be his own contractor on any project of any size is of great concern.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Irene DeBarros. No? Okay. Warren.
She's going to.
Oh, she is. Okay. Come on up. Welcome.
I'm Irene DeBarros. I live diagonally above.
So right here?
Right here.
Right there. There's a swimming pool.
And his property is partially in my view.
Okay.
Partly in my view. It has been the biggest eyesore in the 20 years we have lived there, because he has never completed anything, nothing. Just new buildings rise, brick, mountains of brick and stone. It is a continuous thing. It has never improved by 1 inch. The fact that he is going to build an even larger house tells me that the completion of it is probably stretched out by 50 years, if at all. We live in a narrow street. When he has left no room at all for traffic, construction traffic, it will probably affect everyone on our street. If there's an emergency with the construction going on there, since he has no property to allow them to be, could be fatal. The property he's building is much too large for the neighborhood. There isn't a single person on our street who would disagree with me, whether they live inside of it or not, because he's at the entry of the street, and it's just continuously in disarray. It's an eyesore. It's an eyesore to the neighborhood. It's an eyesore. It's just a very bad situation, and I agree with every aspect of what has been written by other neighbors.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to Warren Schluter. Sorry, slaughter your name. You're the vice chair. You can say it better than I can. Welcome.
Yes, I'm Warren Schluter. I live at 133 Canyon Acres Drive, which is at the end of the cul-de-sac, up over here.
Okay.
Where exactly do you live, sir?
Right here. Just off.
Thank you.
Now, there's two concerns, one of which is pointed out, it's a very narrow street, Canyon Acres, and particularly down in that area, there's actually painted red curbs prohibiting parking because of the narrow nature of that stretch of road. And it can be during, if there's construction going on, it could be a health hazard in terms of fire departments or so getting up, because there was a fire over in this area a couple of years back. The other point that I want to make has to do with the potential easement issue with California Edison, because the power lines for the houses up here, now I'm not sure where there is an easement or isn't, but the power poles are located here and come up here, past up into Piedmont and Claremont, and then go over to our area with a couple of poles that bring power down to this area. So I don't know whether that is a potential issue in terms of construction on if there is an easement in that area. Aside from that, I would just echo all of the concerns that have been mentioned earlier in terms of the bulks, the size, the scale, and also just the continual unfinished projects that have gone on over there over the years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Wienert.
Hi, I'm Paul Wendt. I live at 120 Canyon Acres, which I think is this unit. And my concern primarily is that it seems to me that it's being set up almost like it has three entrances, so that it could end up as three rental units to me. After it's done, you could put in a kitchen, and it would have three units. Each one has kind of this open sitting room, or it has a grotto, or it has something like that. That to me just seems like it's set up for that. And I think the only other thing really is I'm kind of surprised that you can have what appears to me to be a 7 or an 8 foot wall in your front yard right at the right-of-way line, which is one that was built already, but it just seems like it doesn't, I don't know, just that tall of a wall right at your front yard seems kind of odd to me. And really that's all I had.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment? Any other public speakers? If not, Chair will close public comment, bring it back to the board for questions. But before we go to the board for questions, I'm going to go to staff with a couple of questions myself, and it looks like you have some comments to make also.
Yes, I'd like to comment about the modification being requested for this project. It is one modification to convert the garage to habitable space within the interior setback. No windows are proposed. It's going to be the same building. It's just going to be converted to habitable space. So that's the modification request.
Because that's this piece right here, correct?
Yes. And what looks like the front setback where the carport is located is actually an interior setback as defined by the zoning ordinance. The applicant has a vicinity map, I believe, that shows how the parcel comes in, and that is actually an interior setback. Where the carport is, so it's allowed in that location without a modification. That is the purview of the board, but not of the staff hearing officer.
So, is there any 30-foot setback from the road right away?
A small portion.
Right here.
Okay. What? Do we know why this occurred?
Because this is a panhandle for this property over here. So therefore, with this property here, that becomes an interior.
So this is actually part of
this property right here. So
thank you.
Therefore, that's an interior lot.
Thank you. And then one other question to staff: have you been on this site? Have you walked this site?
I was on the site briefly. Staff traditionally does not go to the site until the project is submitted for a mod. This was a brief modification pre-consultation meeting for the conversion of the garage to habitable space. I did try to go by there, but there were items stored and work was being conducted at the time I was there, but I believe there is a building permit, is there, active for the property. And
so in what is that building permit covering?
The application.
Do we know,
that would be the...
Excuse me, Mr. Ng, do we know?
The open building permit is for a wall, I believe, and perhaps Mr. Pecker can
So
elaborate on
where
that.
is that wall?
The wall is the front part and the part that goes along the side. That was
So there's a wall here.
wall here and goes back to, I believe it's right where the front of the existing
It's
garage
also in
was.
this case?
Right here, and dead ends right there.
And do we know what that wall height was allowed?
Excuse me,
Under the
just 1
permit?
second. I want to say something.
You'll hold on, please. We're trying to get some, do we know what that permit allows?
I believe it was up to 6 feet.
6 feet?
I remember. Unfortunately, I don't have that information in front of me.
So we need to maybe get that clarified. Okay, thank you. And then I have one other question on the red curb that's there. Do we know why that got painted red?
No, we do
I'm
not.
assuming it's because of fire, but who painted the curb? The city? Can we find that out, please? You probably
Yeah, we
don't
can
have
look
an
into
answer.
that.
Can you look into that, please, and find out what happened to the red curb? Okay, let's bring it back to the board for questions. Who would like to start?
I'd like to ask a question.
Yeah.
Can you define the modification that
It's this piece right here,
just that side yard?
that side yard.
Yeah.
That's
The
only
structure's already there, but because it's a garage now and it will be proposed to be converted to habitable space, that's
So the garage is already in the side yard.
correct. And they're not proposing any new windows to the garage in the setback. So, but it is required to convert it to habitable space. It's considered an intensification of use in the setback to go from a garage to habitable space.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, questions?
Well, I'd kind of like to hear.
Let's go to Ms.
I
Woolworth,
have a
please.
question for staff. Are there any rules on the books for how long someone can build something as far as continued construction on a lot?
That's a building code question, and I believe there's some active building permit that they have to continue to have an inspection by a certain time. But that would, we could get that answer to you from the building division if you need it, to kind of
I think in this case that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, there is a minimum amount of work that needs to take place between the inspections, and so that's what keeps the building permit going open.
So as long as they're getting inspections at a regular basis, regular interval within a year, I believe is what it is, because I just did some work on my place, then that continues the permit for another 6 months, something like that. And so they can just continually go and go and go ad infinitum?
They may need to request extensions from the building division if it gets beyond a certain length of time and they don't feel that it's progressing in a timely manner. But that would be a decision by the building division.
Okay.
And the current, I think what's been stated just a few moments ago is the current open building permit is just for the walls as described on the site, correct?
Yes, that is my understanding.
Ms. Wooler, any more questions?
That's it for now.
Hey, Mr. Knoll.
Yeah, there were some strong accusations made against the client. I'd like to hear the client's feedback before I continue.
Speak into that mic.
Sure. Yeah, first of all, I want to state that I've been living in this property for the last 26 years. I raised 2 of my sons there, the only sons, and it wasn't easy living there, sending the kids to school, living as a single father. I'm well, educated. I graduated in BS in horticultural. I'm a horticulturist. I had top garden centers. I'm now probably one of the top companies in this country that set up the tone in regards to aesthetics. I've built up a beautiful backyard there that it's all handmade, and worked every stone there almost by myself. A lot of it is hardscape and not any structure. I've seen pictures of tarps there in the yard that were called structures, and all sorts of things. The neighbors that don't even see me say things. There's nothing about me touching any electrical light or any sort. This is all. I don't have a sister. I'm sorry. And in regards to the parking. I have a neighbor that runs a lot of parties there, and when she runs the parties, you can't even move in that street. And why is this coming to me? I have mainly enough parking there, and right now I'm in construction. Some of the materials are stored there because as soon as I get the permit, I will do what I need to do and build it right. Now, I don't piecemeal. I don't do any piecemeal. This is all beautiful, laid out. I brought it all to you to see how beautiful it is. This is an exciting project, and it's a beautiful.
So I have a question. What's this photograph of, and when was that taken, and what is that?
This photograph is in front of the current garage, and these are cinder blocks and plywood that we built the wall with, and this is what's waiting for the continuation.
Okay.
It's not anything that. Now, one more correction. I don't have any open building permits. All my building permits are done. I submitted everything. They're signed by the inspectors, and they're done. So I think that there is a little bit of misunderstanding, but we can correct that.
So is the wall permit closed?
Everything is permitted, everything.
So these walls here.
All are permitted.
And they're finished?
Finished and signed and finalized. I have no open permit. Right now, when I'm working in my backyard, it's a lot of hardscape. We finished the jacuzzi there. We finished the pond. I think that this would be one of the nicest things that you can show in Sunset Magazine, and everybody would smile if you like Sunset Magazine. But so.
All right. Thank you.
I have another question.
Yes.
I'm a little question. Why do you have 3 master bedrooms? What's the purpose?
Well, right now I have a brother in the house that we lost a big property, and he is actually in front of the house. He has a daughter. He's 75 years old. He has a daughter that is 6 years old, and he has no place to live. So one of the reasons is him. You know, I have family that comes once in a while. I'm actually alone, not married, and I have families that comes, and sometimes they need help, and I'm glad to help.
I guess my context is rental units. So I'm kind of trying to put in my head what is it you're kind of designing, what the overall, because there's a lot of accusations that have been made, and I'm trying to put in my head what's the motivation behind the floor plan and all that to actually, you know,
I like a lot of privacy. I like a lot of privacy. The walls give me a lot of privacy. You can walk in the backyard naked. Nobody will see you. I don't understand what is all the talking here, you know, really.
All right, thank you. Okay, other questions? Ms. Pierce.
Can you give us an idea of the square footage of the bedrooms?
Individually, I did not break it down from bedroom to bedroom, but these rooms are on the neighborhood of about 14 feet by 14 feet, and this is the former
So this
garage.
one is roughly 17 and a half by 14, with a sitting room that's roughly 15 by 15. This one is roughly 16 by 14. This one is roughly 12 and a half by 22. Okay. All right, other questions?
Do you have pictures of the permitted wall there?
Yeah, they should be
there. They may be overlaying in, this is the rear yard, that would be in that one area. This is the rear yard.
And it was permitted at the, what height is that wall?
It's permitted at 8 feet. 8 feet. And there is a small picture of the wall, and it is behind the neighbor's right there.
This is the wall here, and there's hedging
so you can see
along
the
the
wall
front.
behind. You barely see the wall because we painted it in a very organic color.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Other questions? Okay, I'm going to go to my questions. I think we got the front yard setback straightened out. I think I understand now where the garage is versus where the carports are. I understand, I think, now about the walls that I saw on my site visit yesterday. What I didn't see is, do we have a photograph of the front of the house looking that way?
I did turn it in. I don't know, David, when I first submitted, I had photographs of the very front of the house.
There's one right up the entry.
No, the only photos I have in the file are the ones that you have before you.
Okay. Do you have existing elevations drawn?
Yes, exterior elevations.
Are they on these sheets?
Yes. Existing?
Yes,
No, I do not have existing.
Okay, so no existing elevations.
They're blended in with the
Okay.
new.
Okay, and can you comment on this issue of the Edison?
When I looked in the surveyor's file, all properties have a surveyor's file, and there is no dedicated utility easements for this property.
So there are no visible power poles along here?
There is not there's no power poles along this property.
No, there aren't. Yes, there are. Well, not on the side, not on this side. And the easement,
Okay, thank you. That's all I need to know. Thank you. All right. Other questions? Let's go to comments. This is here for environmental assessment, and it still requires a staff hearing officer. And just as the previous project, we can give it comments and have them return. We can give it comments and encourage them on to the staff hearing officer.
I do have a question. Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I realize that the existing garage is within the setback, and if they want to convert it to a bedroom, I don't know, structurally, could you still keep the structure of it, but take that wall back to the setback?
Can you move this wall back here? Yes, in theory, you could. Okay.
Yeah, I have comments.
Okay, comments, Mr. Miller.
The first thought is, my thought is, there's no man is an island, and one of the major premises of our board is good neighbor policies, and apparently the neighborhood is up in arms about this whole project. So I'm extremely uncomfortable to pursue any kind of design ideas or recommendations. I cannot support the mod of the garage. The floor plans is too, it does look like a hotel or something rather than a single-family dwelling. I really think the owner needs to talk to and communicate with his neighbors, and really so that there's some kind of concurrent agreement of what's going on. So at this stage, I'm just too uncomfortable. The thing's too much of a hot potato to even, I can't support it at this time until we see some good neighbor policies enacted, at least.
Ms. Woolery, question, any comments?
Well, there was some commentary in one of the letters that was a little alarming to me, which was that there have been various businesses run out of this property, and I should have asked that question, about that, but and whether zoning permits some of the things that have been mentioned that have gone on.
The only business that zoning would permit is in home occupation where there's no signage, no exterior signs of a business. Only residents of the dwelling could be part of the business, and there shouldn't be an exterior display. There's one paragraph about what it should be, so they'd have to comply with that.
I see. So just as long as it's not advertised out there.
No, they have to meet all the criteria. I don't know what type of businesses he's been accused of running, but we could look into that.
Well, I concur with Brian that I think that everything's too large. Personally, all the rooms are huge. It is a very, very I would say suspicious, for lack of a better word, floor plan. I could see why neighbors would be concerned and think that this was going to become a rental for multiple families or multiple people. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me as a single-family home, so I'm troubled by it. I also, as far as the design goes, with this real long piece up the one property line, I don't find it to be very exciting design. or aesthetically pleasing. So I'm having trouble with the project.
I kind of find it, all of a sudden you crammed it all in the front. And one of the biggest problems is there's no parking anywhere. And you're making the house bigger and then making the parking smaller and pulling everything in the front. I don't think, tell me if I'm wrong, do we have the authority on the board to tell them, what they're going to use the house for?
I think we have the authority to make sure that this remains a single-family residence, and in our viewpoint, does the plan presented to us look like a single-family residence? Okay. And if we are not comfortable, then we need to share with the applicant an area where we can be comfortable.
Okay, well, in that viewpoint, I concur with the two other of my colleagues that I think it's could have called them something else, but not three master bedrooms, and it's just standing out too much. That yes, it looks like a massive hotel.
Okay, Ms. Bernstein?
I don't have any comments except that I just think it's important for the board to really stay neutral about any personal, hear this or she said that or they said, we don't know anything, but we have to just stick to our guidelines and go from there.
Okay. Ms. Burns? It's been a long day already. Lisa, Ms. Kay. Sorry.
Thank you. I will concur with my colleagues about what's been said, and I feel greatly concerned about the neighbors' comments and just, that there has been no attempt to ratify the ongoing mess, and concerned about the safety issues with not calling before digging. That is extremely bothersome. So I'm having trouble with this project.
Ms. Pierce?
Yes, I agree with a lot of the comments made by the board here, and I understand the idea of the hardscape and not needing permits. It's the whole neighborly thing and communicating with the neighbors when you're doing projects in the neighborhood that don't require permits, that things are cleaned up and you have a good relationship with your neighbors. So I would encourage whatever happens with this idea, that you remember those kinds of comments that they're making and try and be a little more considerate.
Okay, I'm going to go to my comments. This place is a mess. Okay, I went out there yesterday and spent time. I don't know if my colleagues have had a chance to go out there and walk this property, but it's not acceptable as a neighbor. And I realized, and you're admirable for doing your own work. I built my own house. I did a lot of the work with these hands right here, raising two children and trying to live in the house at the same time with a 20-foot setback on a very active street. But I always managed to keep my front yard clean, away from debris of material except at the most concentrated time of construction, and I worked on my house for 20 years. So I can't be sympathetic to your plight about how you couldn't keep this site clean. So I'm sorry. It's not acceptable. These pictures, if I had not gone to the site, are very deceptive. There's a wall right here that's 12 feet high. These walls appear to be higher than the 8 feet. I didn't have a tape measure with me. I think it's because the grading in here isn't sorted out yet. There is no parking on this street. It's bad enough along this right-of-way, wherever that photograph is, that anybody gets parking, and in a fire, this is a critical area. So not to maintain off-street parking, even during construction, in my view, is not acceptable. I don't know what city zoning will say about it or city planning, but as a good neighbor, certainly wouldn't want to do that. With regards to the plan, I could kind of accept the idea of converting the garage to another bedroom. But I, too, are very troubled by this plan. One of the challenges that we have here is to assure ourselves that these don't end up to be a home that has the impact of rental units. And the direct impact for most neighbors is parking, where we get multiple families living in a single home. Now, you have to balance that with family style, where we may have multi-generations living in the same home. And for various reasons, we have many family members living in the same home. And that's perfectly, in my view, acceptable, but except the fact that we have to keep these homes, regardless of who the owners are, in the context of single-family residence. So this floor plan is highly suspicious. So I really think you need to rethink the whole thing. Having a deck on top of that carport in the front, I might be able to support the carport, but having a deck, a 400-plus square foot deck on the top of that garage, I'm not going to be supportive of that at all. That puts a deck right into the neighborhood. I would like to see the staff. I don't know how you're able to do it. You may not be able to do it, but I suspect there are other violations on this site that haven't been discovered. And I'd like some assurance that that's not the case, that there aren't other structures on this thing that haven't been permitted properly. I think with regards to the approach to the architecture, that's probably acceptable, but I'm going to be looking very carefully at proportions, roof shapes, colors, etc. I would like to see on these set of plans drawn an existing set of elevations, and the existing plan as it now exists with the retaining walls clearly identify where they are and what's been permitted and what's not been permitted. I want to see where fences are, clearly identified what they look like. If you need to provide photographs, please do so. I want some clarification on any Southern California Edison pole locations or easement. If they're not on your property, so be it, but I'd like to know that information. I think there's just too much not completed here for us to allow this project to proceed any further without further work. So those are my comments. I'll move it back to the board for a motion.
Don't we get to rebuttal anything? Just all what you said is good?
I think at this point,
nice.
I think you'll hear our motion, and then you'll need to come back and address our motion. Chair would indicate a motion. I'd like to start. Anyone? Denise, would you like to put a motion together?
Oh, boy. Okay. I would like to move to continue the project indefinitely to the full board.
This is just here for comments only. That's all you have to do is put
to the full board, and we have the following comments. That at this time, the board would like to see a redesign of the project to where there are not 3 master suites, that the rooms are smaller, made smaller, that the board cannot support the deck over the carport. The board would like to have existing elevations as a part of this plan packet, as well as photographs of the fences, all fences and walls on the site. Let me see here. Can't read his writing. We'd like some investigation as to the red curbing out on the street, and who did that. We would like some, I already mentioned the existing elevations. Okay, one second here. The board could support the mod for the garage being turned into habitable space.
I can't. I can't.
No, well, okay.
Okay. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Okay. Would the maker of the motion like to put some language in about making sure that we understand what's going on with possible adjacent Edison poles?
Yes, yes. If we can also add that to the motion about investigating Edison poles and any possible easements along the property, as well as any possible violations of zoning.
Okay.
Would the
part of the
maker-
motion.
Would the maker...
Before you go to that, is the seconder, who's second?
sorry.
Is that okay to the second?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Would you consider adding to the motion to include in the pictures of the wall heights and the retaining walls, to put a measurement on that so we know how high these are?
Yes, thank you. We would also like the measurements on the retaining walls.
Is that
any existing
acceptable
walls.
to the seconder? Okay. That's the motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion?
Does
Yes, sir.
everyone on the board support the mod of the garage conversion?
Not necessarily.
So that's not part of the motion at this point.
It is, actually.
I think
She added it.
I'd like to delete that part of the motion.
Is that acceptable to them?
Yes.
So,
Okay.
so
So that's out of the motion. Okay. So there's no
We're not-
statement at this point of
At this
support for
point.
the mod. Okay. So that's not in the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Chair will call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. We'll see you back in.
Too bad we didn't get to read that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do have a 10-day appeal period. I forgot, for the Marina project, and that was item number, where were we? Two. Oh, I'm sorry, 2. I thought I did mention that. Okay, sorry. There is a 10-day appeal period for the final approval on 3435 Marina Drive.
I think we have a copy here.
Well, this is an updated, showing all the things that are in the
Okay,
backyard.
the
She said
chair,
it was never there.
Chair adjourns the Monday, March 9th, Single Family Design
Feel
Board.
disappointed we didn't